Hey, fight fans, you're listening to Caveman's Corner with your host,
Captain Caveman!
Jeff Denz.
All right, Doozer Nation and fight fans around the world, we're here for a very special event. UFC is coming to New York. UFC 205 is going to be in New York City at Madison Square Garden, where every fight should be. And I had a special guest, Don Lilly, to come in today, except he joined the commission, so he stiffed me. He was scared of the questions I had for him. So I have a great stand-in today again, Erik Herbert. Welcome back, Erik.
Thanks for having me. Good to be back.
All right, what we're going to do is we're going to walk through how UFC got started, and then we're going to actually break down the card a little bit. So November 12th, 1993, the world was changed. UFC 1 happened. Art Davie, John Millis, and Rorion Gracie got together with Wild Promotions and SEG, Semaphore Entertainment Company, and they started Ultimate Fighting Championship. What it started as is it was pretty much just a human cage fight, style against style, like an old-style kung fu movie. That's what I actually didn't start watching UFC to UFC 2, but I got super involved as soon as I saw it. When did you start watching UFC?
Pride had the biggest influence on me. I started watching Pride before I started watching the UFC, and that would have been in around 2004, 2005. And then after I watched a couple Pride fights, that was also when they came out with the Ultimate Fighter Griffin Bonner season. So that's kind of when I picked up. So I started watching Pride. That's what got me hooked. Then I got on the Ultimate Fighter kick, and then then I backtracked and started watching all the fights and everything else.
Yeah, I started from the very beginning when they were punching each other in the balls and fish hooking and like all the illegal stuff, no weight classes, and that's kind of how we rolled. But actually, that actually led to a lot of problems for the UFC too, because September 8th, 1995 was the last time UFC was in New York State. That was Ultimate Fighting Championship number 7, Huas against Varlins.
Yep.
And then after that, all the states started cracking down really hard on UFC because there was no rules, and it was like human cockfighting. All the politicians got into it, and by the time Ultimate Fighting 13 or 12 rolled around, they said no more in New York. So February 6, 1997, it was a Friday. They told the UFC no, they were about to have their show on the 7th. The next day, I had tickets to that. It was supposed to be at the convention center downtown, or at Niagara Falls, I mean. And I was pretty pissed because they put everyone in a plane and they shipped them down to Alabama for the next fight. And then this is about the time you started getting involved in MMA, 97, 98. You started watching Pride. UFC wasn't really on TV anymore. And then Zuffa bought UFC in about 2001. They started getting regulations. The New Jersey Athletic Commission got established in September 2000. They started having rules for everywhere, and they started getting legalized in the States again. And that's about the time I wanted to talk about you and Don Lilly. You started bringing fighting back to Western New York area in the amateur ranks. Can you start talking about that?
Well, yeah, actually, not to humbly I mean this, but not to toot our own horns, but we brought it back to the state because it was outlawed, and we were the first ones that did MMA, that brought MMA back since the ban. Once the lawyers figured out that it was a ban on professional MMA and not amateur MMA, we sat in our office at the old Victory Gym, and we said, you know what, I think we can do an amateur show. And Don agreed, and Tommy, our other coach and partner, agreed, and we said, let's do it. And, we just took a huge risk. We found a venue. We contacted the chief of police in that city. We contacted the mayor in the city that we did it in, and we were the first one in like 13 years. And first MMA fight in New York State. Granted, it was at the amateur level, but it was the first MMA promotion that was sanctioned by an outside committee, the USMTA. So it was a sanctioned MMA fight in New York State. It was the first one since they outlawed it. Yeah.
Did anyone ever try and shut you down for that show?
Yeah, we had. Well, no. The first show, no, they did not. The second show, yes. So what happened and this is like what people don't understand, and I kind of just want to jump back to like one other thing that you said in the write-up, or your prelude to this, is the human cockfighting thing. That's like the famous catch line from McCain and all this other stuff when he talks about it. So first off, when you look at MMA and you look at it and you don't understand martial arts, it's like me saying race car drivers, all they do is turn left. You know, like there's no reference point if you're not involved in the martial arts. So for like McCain and these other people to like look at it and say, oh, it's like human cockfighting. Well, they don't have a reference point. They're not collegiate wrestlers. They're not high-level athletes. They're not lifelong, black belts in anything. They're not. They look at it and they have. They're such on the outside. They're so far and away from it that they just don't even really know what they're seeing. And then you get stupid comments like cockfighting or all race car drivers, all they do is turn left. Like, no, there's more to it than that. But to an uneducated person that's removed from it, they really shouldn't even be commenting on it. That was the first thing. I'm sorry. Anytime I hear that, I always have to snatch that because I just hate that whole stereotype happened. The second thing is when you talk about the forming of the state athletic commissions and things like that.
Before we get into that, I wanted to just shoot
Go
back
ahead.
real quick. I mean, when you see the old UFCs, it is not very skilled athletes banging it out with each other.
Right, but you're also talking about a time in the 90s when the whole model was different. You're talking about a style versus style. A guy walked in there and says, I know how to collegiate wrestle. I'm going to do just that. Nowadays, you have collegiate wrestlers that are world-class strikers with black belts in jiu-jitsu, with strength and conditioning coach and agility and athletics. I mean, you're talking about literally a completely different sport.
I totally agree with you. What I'm saying is, like, when the politicians bring it up, even though the sport is completely different now, they still bring up film from, like, 1995, 1996. So when you see this giant guy against a little guy stomping on his head with no gloves and blood all over the place, it's not how MMA is today. And
right.
It's totally changed.
Right. And when McCain made those comments, it wasn't like that. It was regulated.
Yeah,
he didn't make those comments
today.
in 90.
No,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Right. So that's my point. So you're right. If you look at it from the UFC 1 and stuff like that, it is tough to watch, right? And I don't necessarily condone all that stuff that was happening then because I don't really think that's safe. I don't know what the medical testing was and all this other stuff, blood work and CAT scans, MRIs from a safety perspective, and the rules were crazy. There should be time limits on fights. You can't just fight until someone passes out
Even
or dies.
The ref couldn't even stop the fight back then.
Right. So exactly, the safety features of it. So I won't say that it didn't come from an almost cockfighting realm, but when he made those comments and when people they're not talking about that, they were talking about a current day MMA, and that's where it's like, what are you talking about, man? Like, if you're referencing UFC 1 and making those comments, maybe, but he made those comments when there was like UFC 90 and UFC 100, and it was like you either skipped 100 UFCs and just watched one from the early 90s and made this statement, or you just didn't stay up on it, and now you're commenting on something you don't know anything about.
I've actually heard some comments from some of the politicians that even voted on this. Like, I was super into this for a long time, like just like everyone else is that fought. And when they were sending around the information packets about UFC, they would show them images from the old UFCs from UFC 1, UFC 2, UFC 3, as opposed to the regulated MMA that's today. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
Even like the chemo where everyone was in the ring and all that stuff is
right.
what the politicians were actually seeing before they were voting on the issues at times.
Yeah, so I mean, what I would say to that is you do a better job, politicians, which I'm about sick of on another conversation anyway. But I mean, if you're voting on something, and this will remind me to bring this up when we talk about the current vote in MMA and 2 years ago what happened and all those freaking politicians that I had to talk to that were like talking to blind, just totally clueless people. That's interesting that you say that. I never heard that, but to me, it's not an excuse for them voting no. Like, okay, like you got bad intel, or you couldn't do a Google search. I mean, it's so readily available at the point where all these people were voting no. If they got hustled by someone showing them an old flyer, like, go run for apply somewhere else. Like, your job, because for me, they kept me out of work. They kept me unemployed for 10 years. And I was a professional athlete that couldn't fight in my home state, couldn't get sponsorships, and couldn't make money. So
we say that as we're watching the presidential election in the Fanduzzi studios right now.
Yes, which kudos to the studio. You guys have done an awesome job here. It's coming together pretty cool. But yeah, so these guys are voting on my future, and they don't even know what they're voting on. Why? Because someone showed them an old pamphlet. Like, okay, fair enough. I understand what you're saying. But to me, that's not a free pass. Like, do a Google search, look it up, go to an event, talk to a fighter. That's not an excuse. To me, that's just a bad job.
I think until Zuffa got involved and really put money into lobbying and the politicians actually saw what was going on, It became a whole different story once Zuffa took over in 2001. They bought the UFC for $2 million. That was a pretty good investment.
Well, they sold it for what, $4.5 billion?
Yeah, 4.5 to 4.8, depending on. There's some options in the clause or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, talk about it, and that's a relatively short turnover too. What is that, a 12-year? What did they get in 2001? Sold it this year, so we're talking about a 15. You're talking about a 15-year investment. Jesus, I wish my 401k would do that.
No, maybe we could go back in time and invest in UFC. I would have bought it.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
I didn't have $2 million, but yeah.
They said that was like the worst investment of all time too, because the lawyer for Fertitas, who owns Zuffa, actually told him, you're paying $2 million for what? The name? You're not getting anything with this. They didn't even really get the fighter contracts with it.
No, they didn't.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
$2 million for that name and what it turned into.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that goes with that. I mean, they were like $20 million in the hole just before the Ultimate Fighter. They were about to pull the plug on it. They were going to write it off as a huge, $1 million business loss and all this stuff. And this is why, like, in my personal life, I've done 4 business ventures. I've had 4 companies, DBAs, corporations, whatever, and 2 out of the 4 were successful. The other ones were not. But the thing that I can say is that sorry, I'm getting distracted by watching the election. But the thing that I can say is at least I went for it. You always hear these people, oh, bad investment, never do this, never do this. There's like so many people telling you what to do. The UFC was a perfect example. Everybody told them not to do it. Everyone told them to pull the plug. Everyone told them you've dumped too much money in it. You're not going to see return on it. In 15 years, they went from $2 million to $4.5 billion. And, not like I said, the reason I brought up my business ventures is everyone that I've done and that was successful, to including the TNT Fight Series and opening my gym, everyone told me, don't do that. Oh, the state's going to shut you down, or you can't open up an MMA gym. You have a baby on the way, all this other negativity stuff. And all those things were very successful for me. So I hate when people are always trying to act like they know, and very often it comes out they're very wrong. And in the case of UFC, it was a perfect example of that.
That's crazy. Getting back to TNT, I can't believe you guys were able to get the venture up and running. We were doing fights at runways, and the police would come and shut us down all the time with Jerry Davey back in the day.
Yeah.
Even when it started getting regulated and they were trying to do it with regular rules, they were still shutting us down. Did you lobby anywhere, or you just talk to the mayor? How did that
pretty
work
much just
out?
talk to the mayor and chief of police, who's now my boss. So the other thing I wanted to say is I'm not necessarily a big proponent of athletic commissions by the state. Just like the NFL is not run by state athletic commissions, the NBA is not run by state athletic commissions. I know there is in boxing. I know that there's controversy on this topic, but I think a universal commission, because rules are different state to state, weigh-ins are different state to state. There's a lot of variations state to state. So I don't know.
Can we go into that a little bit? Because especially in the amateur levels, even the rules that they fight under are different from state to state. Some people wear shin pads. Some people don't allow ground and pound.
Yep.
The rules the time limits are different in places. Sometimes 2 minutes, sometimes 3 minutes.
Sure, yeah. In Ohio, let's look at Ohio. Standard 3-minute rounds, 3 3-minute rounds for an amateur fight. You can't kick to the head. You can't knee to the head. The only thing that can contact the head is a fist. You can kick an elbow to the body, legs, etc. Or you might not be able to elbow in Ohio, but you can kick a knee to the body and to the legs. But the only thing that can contact the head is a closed fist. 3 3-minute rounds. That's Ohio. But also remember in Ohio is that the weigh-ins are the same day for pro or amateur. So in the morning, if you're cutting weight, you fight hours later. Whereas in TNT, when we did it, and in a lot of other states, they do the weigh-ins the day before. So you have a full 24 hours, usually more, usually closer to 30 hours of full rehydration before you fight after cutting weight. In Ohio, it is not like that. There's one difference. Also in Ohio, you don't get a stool. So you can't sit in between rounds. There's no stool to sit on.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep. So there's 2 things, because I've cornered in Ohio many times. I'm always had them sitting on my knee. I fought in Ohio and I was sitting on the mat. They don't give you a stool. They don't let you bring one in. You can't. I was going to bring one from home. They wouldn't let me. It's not. You can't have stools.
Would someone throw a stool at somebody?
Oh, you wouldn't. You didn't know because your fight didn't get out of the first round in
No.
Ohio. Yeah. Didn't I remember with Chapman? I think
Yeah.
almost 99%. Didn't he sit on your knee? Or maybe I'm confusing Chapman with another guy.
No, I wouldn't come out for Chapman because I still haven't fought yet. I was still in the locker room.
Okay.
I don't remember.
But yeah, so there's no stool. So you have those things, right? And then let's just go to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, you wear shin guards. You have 2-minute rounds, so 3 2-minute rounds. You have a minute and a half in between, so an extra 30 seconds of rest in between the rounds.
You rest almost as much as you fight.
Right. And you can't punch to the head on the ground, whereas in Ohio you can. So you're talking 2 states that basically almost touch each other, and you can't. And just by going 50 miles one way, 50 miles the next, the rules change that drastically. And that's drastic. I mean, you're talking punching in the head, not punching in the head. Shin guards, no shin guards. Round length, round rest length, weigh-in recovery time, dehydration processing time. You have a tremendous amount of variation just in 2 states. Now let's go down to Virginia. That's where I started fighting, Virginia, D.C., and Maryland. Unless something's changed, in Virginia when I was fighting there, you could kick to the head as an amateur. It was 3-minute rounds. You could heel hook. That's another thing. Twisting leg locks were not allowed in Ohio. Currently are not allowed in Ohio.
What do you think about that in amateurs anyways? Do you think they should allow heel hooks?
No. My ideal amateur rule set is what Raging Wolf followed and is what we followed at TNT until the last couple. I don't believe you should wear any shin guards. I do believe you should wear 4-ounce gloves, the MMA gloves. I think
you don't like the 8s?
I don't like
for
the 8s.
Amateurs?
No, not really. I mean, it depends. If you're talking about the rounded ones, the ones that like really start to round out, because you can see variation, and some states have it where it's like the really rounded training glove,
right.
And then there's other states that have it where it's just kind of like a bigger UFC glove. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
So like TNT uses I think 4, and I think the UFC or like 6, and the UFCs are actually a little bit smaller, but they're still not the rounded coned out glove. So as long as you're using that grappling glove, that MMA glove, I'm okay with it. Maybe if it's a little bigger padding on the amateur side, I guess that's okay. But
yeah, the cone one sucks.
Yeah, it's not really.
It's really easy to get your finger on her cheek.
Yeah, it's not. It's not a representation of what you're going to be using in the pros. Yeah. So. I don't know where I was going. So athletic. Yeah. So at leg locks. Yeah. So leg locks. No, I don't like twisting leg locks in the amateurs. I don't like elbows or knees or kicks to the head. I think the only thing that should be able to contact the head is punches with the right glove in the amateur ranks. I do think there should be early stoppages for blood. I mean, these are amateur fights. They're free fights. They're not. You're not gonna. I don't even remember most of my amateur fights. So yes, I do think it should be a minute rest. I do think it should be 3-3-minute rounds for a normal fight. I do think you should be able to have a stool. I do think you should be able to have the day before weigh-ins. I do think you should be able to go 5 3-minute rounds for a title, where in Pennsylvania it's only 3 3-minute rounds, even if it's for a title. So you got all these inconsistencies, and like I referenced Virginia, you could kick to the head. There's another, I can't remember what the state is. It might be like Connecticut or Rhode Island. No, it's not Connecticut. But anyway, there's another neighboring near state here that also allows head kicks in the amateur level, and it's just you're going state to state, and everything's different.
Maine allows head kicks, right?
Maybe it's Maine. I might be thinking of Maine.
They were throwing head kicks at when I went down in Bordeaux.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's Maine then. So I am not necessarily a big advocate of individual state athletic commissions unless these individual states got on the same page. So that I just kind of wanted to mention that. And then
it's crazy. It's just like the trucking laws. There's like laws in trucking that are different from state to state.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Like there's so much stuff in our country that's like that. There's just one federal way. Like that's one commission.
Well, it's tough when you have things that cross borders. I mean, it's all fine and well for things only to be legal. I mean, look at marijuana, for example.
Right.
That keeps coming up, but it's legal in Colorado, or it's legal medicinally in many other states. And now if I go and fight in a state where it's not legal, and that athletic commission, like the Nevada State Athletic Commission has like a really high tolerance for marijuana now because it's like legal in Nevada and stuff like that. Well, those aren't the same standards that are in other athletic commissions. So now you're going to have, again, you're having these states that are on different pages, and you're just
and you're seeing at the highest levels guys like McGregor say I don't want to fight in Vegas because of the fine. Because
of the fine, yeah.
Yeah, because every commission fines different. There's different laws and different rules, especially the weigh-ins. Like PA is tough for the weigh-ins with Serbs. Sometimes Serb's rough. It's like he's late for the weigh-ins, and you just gotta wait, and that's just how it goes. Even with the high-level guys, even UFC guys complain about him at times.
And Serb bothers me. and even though I've had a pretty good relationship with him,
I do too. Serb's been awesome to me so far.
Yeah, Serb bothers me. This joke of the King of the Cage that just happened, that bothers me, because, and this is because I'm a fighter, obviously retired, but still, they cannot and will not treat my team the way they've been treating us. Like, they're not just gonna these commissioners. They don't give a damn about the fighters.
That was Serb at King of the Cage?
No, I've had other problems with Serb in the past. But King of the Cage, screaming at us, yelling at us. This little guy in a suit that's got, I don't even know what the hell his name was.
Yeah, he's at all of them. He was at the one with Janice too.
Well, good for him, but he needs to learn a little bit about respect and dignity and how to talk to people. Instead, the 2-second version is they're screaming and yelling at the fighters. Get off your phone. This is a fighters meeting. Who are you? First off, this is the awesome thing that I love about these state athletic commissions. This is the tribal.
I got yelled at the FCP for being on my phone too.
Did you?
During
the rules meeting?
Yeah. Because I was writing up a blog about the show to come to the show.
Right. So this is, there's more than just that phone instance. But what I'm saying is it's the King of the Cage one was twofold. It was the Seneca Commission, because it was on sovereign land, which is a joke. It's an absolute joke, and I could tear them apart, and I hope they're listening to this, because give me 1 minute and nobody will ever fight for them again. That commission, because what they did was an absolute joke, and it just goes to show the inconsistencies in individual commissions instead of having a universal, and I understand they're on sovereign land, instead of having a universal commission. And then there was also this King of the Cage guy who was a promoting guy who was an issue. So basically they told us that we didn't need grease, didn't need Vaseline to put on the fighters, and then last minute they told us they did. So as we're walking out to the cage, we don't have Vaseline because they said they were going to do it, and then they're like, oh no, you're going to need it. So our guy goes and runs back and gets it, and it's like this maze path and an elevator to get up to where they're fighting, and you're in this back room. You have to walk through, like I said, this maze and this elevator, and then it takes you up to the arena floor. So when we're trying to do that, the guy has to run back and get the Vaseline because they've last minute told us there was a change.
That's at the Seneca Casino, right?
At the Seneca Casino last month or 2 months ago. And so I'm holding the elevator for our guy who's going to be a couple seconds, and this little freaking guy from King of the Cage in the suit is like swatting at my hand with a rolled up lineup. He's like, let go of that door, let go of that door. I'm like, dude, I don't know who you're talking to, but first off, I'm a grown man. Second, my fighters are here, and you've already been treating us like dog shit all day, all yesterday, all today. You've been incredibly rude. You've been incredibly unprofessional when it came to ticket sales and money and everything else. You didn't know. You couldn't answer any of our questions. Don't even get me started on the drug test debacle.
I want to go right into actually the selling tickets part, because this is huge, because you're making these guys a lot of money. So revenue is generated from these fights mostly by fighters selling tickets, because that's who sells the most tickets to these fights. We're not UFC. A lot of these shows don't sell out without the fighters selling a lot of tickets. So Erik brought some of the biggest ticket sellers to this promotion as well. So he's making them a ton of money. You can start right there, because regular people probably don't know too much about this aspect of the business.
So what happens is a promoter comes in and says, I want to do a fight. They find a venue. Then they have to find someone to regulate it. In this case, it was the Seneca Nation, because it was at the casino. Neither one of them, the Seneca Nation that is paid by the promoter to sanction it, or the promoter, King of the Cage themselves, makes a cent, 1 penny, if it's not for my fighters, our fighters, going there and fighting. Our team sold over $30,000, closer to 35 if I did the math right, $1,000 in ticket sale commission between the 5 fighters from Western New York MMA that were on that King of the Cage card. And these guys were motherfucking, they were saying it. They're like, get the fuck off your phone, get this, get that, go stand over there. Dude, these guys are fighting. These guys they made you $35,000, King of the Cage, and for the commission who's sanctioning it, the only reason why you're doing anything this weekend, making any money, is because the promoter paid you to sanction this. And none of that happens without $35,000 in revenue from my guys, which we went 4-1 that night because we have one of the best teams in the state. So and I'm not asking for free T-shirts. Just don't swat my hand.
A little dignity,
like respect. Just a little bit of that goes a long way, because let's not forget, we're not some, we're martial artists, man. And I'm very much about respect. I'm very much about consideration. I'm very much about leadership. And you're not going to talk and act like that. And the way these King of the Cage people treated me, because I spoke up, I said, listen, first off, we've made you a lot of money. Don't touch me. We're going to wait for our coach for a second. No, you're not. The show's got to go on. And then they're laughing at me like, he can find his way. What are you worried about? This and that. I'm like, dude, I don't know. But now I got my fighter there who's like hearing all this. He's about to fight. And you can tell he's like, it doesn't, it's not helping him focus. And I actually apologized to my fighter after. I said, I'm really sorry that I lost my cool there for a second. You deserve better. But I will not have you guys bullied. You guys are the reason these guys have their hands out making money on the commission side and the promoter side. You will not be bullied. You will not be run down. You will not be treated the way you're not in front of me. They're going to respect us.
I think the Seneca Nation is going to have to change now that it's legal in New York. I had a lot of trouble with them too when I fought. I was fighting at 145 and the guy weighed in at 163, and they were just going to let the fight happen. They weren't going to try and make him make weight. They weren't going to impose any fines on him or anything. I mean, you've dealt with the same stuff. It's
sure. It's disgusting. And let me tell you another one. This will be a quick one. They drug tested fighters. Some fighters failed drug test for marijuana. Well, two things. First off, the test kits that they use were the same ones you get at Walmart for like $5. These are not accurate drug tests. These are ones that are chronically they have false positive readings all the time. They make fighters piss into these cups. An instance happened where a fighter comes up positive for marijuana, barely, faintly. And this is just before he's going out there, like within the hour. And they tell him that. They say, hey, you tested positive for marijuana in this $4 test kit I got at Rite Aid. And so we go, well, what does that mean? I don't know. They wouldn't answer. This is not made up. They walked away from it. They would not answer our questions. So now I got a fighter who is flipping out, as he should be. Well, what do you mean? Are they going to take my money? Am I going to be suspended? Am I allowed to fight? Finally, they say, no, you can fight tonight. We'll deal with this later. And they suspend him the next day. So let's back up for a second. A fighter fails a drug test before the fight. You let him fight an hour later and suspend him after? Why? You let him fight because it benefited you, you sleazy scumbags. You didn't, if it was really an issue that he failed this drug test, if he even failed it, first off, then you would have suspended him from your competition in an hour. You wouldn't have let him go out there and fight why would you let him go out there and fight? If you fail a drug test, why do you let him go and fight an hour later? But they did, and then the next morning, after they've already made the money, they suspend him for 6 months or longer. They still haven't even told us what it is.
Did they send it to a lab?
They said they were going to send it to a lab, and this is my problem. First off, what on God's earth are they sending to a lab? A false positive test kit? What lab is it going to? And from my research into that subject, it costs thousands of dollars to get a lab to run through these processes, and somebody has to pay for that. Who is paying for that? The Seneca Commission is going to pay to have a fighter's urine tested for marijuana? Because that's what they told us they were doing. They were sending it to a quote-unquote lab. What lab? Oh, we don't know. There's no answers for any of this. So you're sending it to who? What is this, Willy Wonka's chocolate lab? Like, what the? Where is this going?
Do they report to the ABC?
What? No, not to my knowledge. They never brought up the ABC. They never gave me a definitive answer as to where this lab is, where it was going, when they would have results. They don't return phone calls. They haven't returned any of my Facebook messages, and it's been 2 months. So my biggest thing is who is paying for it? This costs money. So when you send it to a lab, are they going to send me a bill? Because the way other states do it is the reason you get fined so let's say I go and I test positive for whatever, pick your substance, caffeine, who gives a shit, doesn't matter. I test positive for something. They send it to a lab, that costs money, and they fine me 20% of my purse. So now if I made $1,000, I have to pay them 20% of my purse for filling a drug test. There's $200, and that $200 goes to the commission, and obviously the pay for the follow-on testing in the labs. Well, they never find any of my fighters. So are they going to send these 20-year-old athletes that have already spent most of their money because they're barely trying to make ends meet a bill in the mail? Are they just going to bill them down the road? Because we should know that. I can't tell these guys not to spend their money. Like, they have to budget. They haven't told us anything. It's an absolute joke. And in the meantime, I'm getting fight offers from all over the country for my team to fight, but they're suspended from the Seneca Commission on the National ID website, so none of my fighters can fight. And nobody knows when that's going to end.
That's crazy.
It's wild. And don't even get me started on the money aspect of it, because when my fighters sold them tens of thousands of dollars in ticket sale money, and my fighters were like, can you count this? Because basically what happens is, let's say they sell 100 tickets and they make the guy $10,000. Usually a fighter for selling the tickets gets a commission, 10%, 20%, whatever. So my fighter might say, I've sold them 10,000 in tickets.
Hillary won New York.
Yeah, we knew it was going to happen.
Should have voted for Caveman.
Anyway. So my fighter might have sold them $10,000 in tickets. He's going to get a 20% commission. He's going to get $2,000 in commission. So now he's going to get $2,000 cash. They didn't count that out. So my fighter gave him thousands of that. Not my fighter, fighters. This happened. Like I said, we had a lot of guys on this card, and they didn't count it. They didn't count the money turned in. Oh, I get it. I trust you. It's all there. And my fighters were like, no, can you count this money? Like, and they're like, oh, if there's a problem, we'll come find you. What do you mean you'll come find me? and say what? And say there's too much money there? Say there's not enough money there, even though there was, and now I owe you money because you didn't count it in front of me? What business transaction? You can't just hand money to a cashier and they'll say, oh, we'll let you know if there's too much there or there's not enough. This is a professional interaction. So that goes on the promotion, not the commission.
Right.
So all those things, not to mention the demeanor and the way they treated our fighters, make it so I never want to go near a King of the Cage, near a Seneca Nation regulated event ever again. And don't even get me started to when Raging Wolf was with them and they weren't covering my medicals and all this other stuff, because that was a different promotion company. Still was involved in the Sign Act, the Seneca Nation Indian Commission, whatever. But I hope if you're listening to this, I don't know how many people will listen to this, but whoever does, hopefully it's millions, but whoever is listening to this, King of the Cage, you should be held responsible and for the poor treatment of coaches and fighters who are making you money hand over fist. And the Seneca Nation, you have no even slightest care for the real well-being of a fighter. Because if you did, you would not have let these guys who failed drug tests fight that night. And if it was a big deal, you would have sent us to the lab. You would have kept us informed. You wouldn't have suspended them for 6 months and keep these guys out from making all this other money they could be making and fighting all these other fights all over the world. They could be involved right now. They could be fighting other fights, but they can't because you've suspended them, even though you haven't told them for how long, if they owe you money, why and when, and you still let them fight that night on your card after there's a failed drug test. So shame on them. It's a crooked business, and it's one of the things that I'm glad New York State is now regulating it, because I hope that it can curtail some of the things that we're talking about right now.
All right, before you shoot the TV, let's jump into how.
Sorry, man.
You see how mad Erik
I'm
looks.
fired
His face
up.
is red.
I hate when they take advantage of us, man.
You're like the ultimate guy that takes care of the bully. That's why you're our coach.
Yeah, I try, man.
Yeah. So why don't we get into just how TNT came around and how you got around all the legal hurdles to get the amateur show running, and how. Maybe if you can touch on, I don't know how much you know about Don and a lawsuit with Zuffa. If you can get into that a little bit too.
So back to the TNT getting along. So we decided, okay, they sued the state. They determined amateur MMA was not expressed.
Who sued the state?
UFC.
Okay, UFC sued
Yep.
the state.
So UFC sued the state, to which Don was a plaintiff in. Victory Gym, my gym, was a plaintiff in. And basically what came back is they said, there is no rule, because there wasn't really amateur MMA in the 90s. It was just kind of just all MMA. So it kind of like a loophole, if I understand everything right. No one said you couldn't do amateur MMA, which becomes incredibly dangerous, because what justifies amateur MMA? What if it's two guys in there with a baseball bat?
Right.
There's no rule set.
Wasn't it wasn't you could only be under so many commissions as well? And then,
Yes. So
okay.
we'll talk about that too.
Okay.
So what happens is New York State says you can. It's how it is now. Also, New York State says you can do amateur, but pro is illegal. And that happens from around 2011 or 2012 to present day until this weekend when they do the first pro one. So we said, man, let's jump on this. Let's try it. But let's get our ducks in a row. And I knew the mayor, who's now a state senator. I knew the mayor of the city of North Tonawanda because we did so he was like a celebrity guest on like this thing, and so was I as like a fighter. And he was a cool guy. He's a good dude. He served in the military, and so did I. So we talk kind of, we're friendly with each other. And then
I could have the president on my podcast right now.
Yeah. So like I said, a good guy, and so we met with him, and we said, and he was also into the martial arts. He did like Krav Maga training and things like that. So he was open to it. He had a martial artist mindset, and we said, hey, this is MMA. He's seen it in the UFC, and he's familiar. He knows it's safe. We said, it's legal. Here's the paperwork from the state. This is the state decision. We're going to do it. And the mayor said, fine. The chief of police said, fine. So we did it. And it went from there, and it made national attention, man. It was all over the news. New York finally brings back MMA. I mean, these are websites that I have followed for years are now having my TNT fight show on their web pages and stuff. It was an awesome moment. It was very, very cool, very proud moment for us. And what we did is the state said it has to be sanctioned by these one of these 11 committees because there is no state sanctioning. The problem with those 11 committees, it might have been 12, something like that, that they said could govern, could regulate amateur MMA. Most of them weren't around anymore because they were from the 90s. So it was like the Kickboxing, World Karate, Aikido, and Ballet Federation. Well, that thing went under in the 90s, so it wasn't even there. So most of them weren't even a valid option. There was one that was a valid option. Well, there's two. One was a valid option that was close by, and that was the USMTA, the United States Muay Thai Association. And we had a guy who was running kickboxing shows under that USMTA sanctioning banner. So we brought him in and his referees and judges and everything else to sanction the first one. They had certain rules that were vastly different too. You had to wear shin guards and there all this other stuff. So there was a lot of differences in the USMTA's rule set, but they came in and sanctioned it. They did such a terrible job, such a dangerously terrible job in getting these fighters medicals and refereeing and judging.
Did you actually need medicals then?
Yeah, you did. I think so. I think for the USMTA they did, but they didn't care. They weren't checking it. It was a mess. They didn't care. They had never done it. To be fair to them, all they knew was kickboxing. So us doing MMA, no one's done MMA in New York State for 13 years. So these USMTA guys were here and they're like, yeah, we're allowed to do it. It says it in the state code book or whatever, but we don't really know what to do. And that's exactly what happened. So they made terrible calls. They put our guys in danger. So for the second one we did, and it cost a lot of money. It cost us like $2,000 to bring these guys in. So the second one that we did, I said, I'm not paying these guys again. This is a freaking joke. They're gonna get someone killed. Their refs were terrible. Their judges were judging the wrong people. The blood work nobody was checking it was a joke. So we sanctioned it. We came up with a sanctioning committee, the mixed martial arts sanctioning committee, the MASC.
Sounds like a good committee.
Yeah, the MASC. That was the acronym for it. And we did it right, man. I can, up until the last couple of shows, which I guess we could talk about later, but there was a solid 10 shows there where I was very proud of what we did. We had rule set, handbook, judges, ambulance, insurance, everything. Doctor, ringside doctor. Nobody told us we had to do that. Hundreds of dollars for a ringside doctor, $1,000 for a standby ambulance, multiple expenses in fighter medicals because sometimes we had to get their blood work done for them because they couldn't afford it. That's on the promotion and the sanctioning to handle. Equipment, brand new equipment for each show. We really kept these guys safe. There was a solid 10 shows. The first 2 were shaky. Then there was like the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, all the way up to about the 10th or so, where I really was proud of what we were doing.
But at the same time, you're the commission, so you're in charge of fighter safety and paying for all that.
and we're the.
But at the same time, you're the promoter putting on the show. Do you
Yes.
think, is there a lot of
It's a. This is what I can.
slippery slope stuff going on there?
100%. Never happened until the last few shows. Truthfully, from honestly, man to man, no compromising things happened until at the end, and then I was like, "Oh, this isn't good. We are not making moral decisions
I got to bring this up
worried
because
about money."
I was going to hit down with this one, but about the first blood match. Can you talk about that one?
So that was the first one, and we met after that, and I think we've had 4 since that one, 4. And we talked, and we realized that was not right. What happened was, in an unsanctioned, basically an unsanctioned fight, because the mask was not a recognized sanctioning committee, and the state wasn't touching it. We had a guy who didn't have anything wrong with his blood, hepatitis, HIV, Hep C, etc. But he didn't get it in time. So he had the blood work done, but we didn't have it in hand. So, but the show was tanking. We had like 15 fights. It was down to 6, and this was going to be like the 7th. And it was just like, because people backed out, canceled. There's a million reasons why.
That was actually the first show I worked with you guys with too, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah, it was bad. The venue was bad. Everything was bad. It was the worst one we've ever done. We lost money. It was the only one. Well, we lost money on 2. One that when we tried to do them in Rochester, because we were actually the first ones to do it in Rochester. FCPs are now doing very well for themselves, but we were the first ones to ever do MMA in Buffalo, North Tonawanda, and the surrounding places.
And your guys' defense, I almost died getting out that show.
Yeah, it was like a blizzard.
So bad.
Yeah, it was a crazy. We lost money on that show.
And we had to take the ambulance for Piccolo.
Yeah.
And he was fighting everybody. The show stopped for an hour.
That's right.
What a mess.
Yeah, so that one was a negative experience, and this one that I'm talking about now, that was in Wheatfield at the fire hall. Yeah, that was a bad one too. We've had good ones there, but that one was a terrible one. And so basically, to answer your question, guy didn't have his blood work in time. Didn't really know if he was HIV positive, Hep C positive. Didn't know, and we decided we would. And I have to say we, because at the end of the day, if I wasn't part of the solution, I was part of the problem, and it happened, and I was part of it, and I didn't agree with it, and I said I don't think we should do it, but at the end of the day, it happened, and if I could have used better judgment, I guess, myself, even though I was advocating for us not to do it. I didn't advocate enough, and what happened was we decided, with the doctor's advice, that if the person who didn't have his blood work in started bleeding, we would stop the fight. But the person who did have his blood work in and we knew it was clean and we knew he was healthy, if he was bleeding, that was okay. And that's exactly what happened. The kid who had good blood work was bleeding all over the place because he got punched in the nose or something, and the other kid didn't, so that kid ended up winning the fight.
Sounds like a lot of work for the ref to tell who's who.
It was, and it was a very convoluted situation. It was a very on the fence, borderline unethical thing to be a part in, and I'm not proud of it.
How many tickets did the guy that could not bleed sell?
It was like 4, and the other guy, and that was my thing, and that's why I'm like, this isn't even worth it. Who cares? The people are already here. We're not refunding tickets anyway. Like, this is beyond our control. Who cares? Just scrap the fight. Well, one of my other partners was not like that. He put fights together just to have them on the card, even though we would lose money on them. Didn't matter. More fights the better. Well, there was no financial gain to some of these fights. So especially in that situation, it made 0 sense to do.
I honestly thought the whole time that guy sold 20, 30, 40 tickets, which is a lot for a small venue like that, honestly.
And even if he did, who cares? Those people are still there. We're not going to refund the money because this guy didn't get his blood work done. So, yes, there are fans there for him, and I understand that. But he's also the one that didn't do what he was supposed to do and get his blood work done. So just cancel the fight.
And your guys' defense, though, at the same time, all over New York State, there's these shows going on where they aren't even checking blood work or doing medicals at all.
Absolutely.
So, like, TNT and Erik Herbert and all these guys, they really went above and beyond. So Erik's really talking about a problem with his conscience. It's not a legal problem.
Yes, it was not illegal. No. It was the farthest thing from a legal problem. There's no laws. So the fact that I have spent $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on insurance, and I've never needed it for event insurance, in case something happens. There's not one law anywhere that said I ever needed to do that Now there is, because the state's involved in things like that. But there was never. Ambulance on standby is like, sometimes it's like $150 an hour, and the event goes for 7 hours, 5, 6, 7 hours, 8 hours. You got a $1,000 ambulance bill. Nobody ever said I needed an ambulance there. There was no rule saying that. The doctor ringside, it could be $200, $300, $400 for a ringside doctor. Nobody says I had to do that. Nobody said I needed the big equipment. Nobody, or the extra padded gloves. I never broke any law. I'm just strictly going off of me as an athlete, and as a coach, and as a competitor, thought was the safest realm to provide these guys and girls. I never once broke any law, and I just held myself to a high standard.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that people listening understand that you didn't have to do any of that, and you did that out of like your personal desire to keep the fighters safe. So let's fast forward to today, and let's talk about what's going on with the commissions now.
Yeah, a lot of it still remains to be seen, but in the infinite wisdom of New York State, I think they completely botched this and totally blew it. And we'll see. We'll know in a year from now or 2 years from now when these things dust starts to settle. But going back a second here is, I think it was 2014 or 13. I can't remember. There was like 55 shows, MMA shows in New York State. And the year or two prior when we did the first one, it was 1. We were the only one in 13 years and the only one that year. And then 2 years later, there's like 55. And none of those guys had doctors and EMTs, any of that. So just, again, to kind of just say one more thing, we were by far, not even close, the safest, most regulated show out there.
And your guys' defense, I've been to shows and states where everything's regulated, and you're still more professional than some of those shows I've been to.
Yeah.
I've been to shows in PA that are a shit show compared to what you guys did. Same thing, Ohio. Man, that one in Maine was just a mess. There was no one in the lock. It was just a mess.
Yeah, I mean, well, I appreciate that. And, people think because it's state athletic commission are involved, that doesn't mean a damn thing. If you know what, it doesn't mean anything. And because it's different from state to state. And the other thing you have to remember is these guys doing it state to state, these aren't full-time employees. These aren't guys making $200,000, $100,000 a year to head a commission. And it's not like Vegas where there's fights, there's boxing, there's all these UFC headquarters. It's not like that. This is not full-time employment. You might have a guy in Maine ref a show once a year. And he might be the worst ref ever, but it's not a high in-demand thing. These guys are making $100 on a weekend. It's not.
When I went down to Maine and I wrapped Bortles' hands, I taped over the knuckles. You're not supposed to do that. The guy didn't know anything.
No.
Like, they don't even understand what hand wrapping was supposed to be. So, obviously we made a little bit better wraps than normal.
Yeah. Yeah, they have no idea. And this commission, the one that I'm talking about from the Senecas, they were watching us wrap hands. And they couldn't have been more. They would give us one inspector for a locker room to watch hands. And then they'd come in and say, hey, you're up, get out there. I'm like, we haven't wrapped our hands. Well, that's your fault. How is that our fault? There's 15 guys in here. What are you talking about? It's not our fault. You gave us one inspector. So unprofessionally run. And then if you tried to wrap hands without an inspector there, just because you knew you were going to go compete and you had to warm up, because you can't warm up until your hands are wrapped, they would say, oh, you're going to take that hand wrap off. It doesn't count this. I'm like, dude, you're taping, using gauze. This stuff costs money. It takes time. You got to get it just right. Total.
The wraps you put on your hands are what protect you when you actually strike an opponent. So it's just a layer of cushioning that goes over your knuckles so you don't break your hands. And if you're sweating before you put it on, it doesn't really it doesn't sit very good. And it's very uncomfortable, and it's very hard to get to sit. And
Right.
hand wrapping itself is an art.
Yeah, it is, and there's guys who do it really well. I'm okay at it. I know there's much better guys out there than me, but it takes me a solid 20 minutes to get these guys' hands right, and they're different. Everyone's hands are different size. You're right about the sweating thing. You can't warm guys up and then wrap their hands because then it doesn't sit right. And this commission was just like screaming and yelling at us, wrap their hands. I can't. There's no inspector. You're up. Get out there and fight. What are you talking about? Like, you don't even know the sport. You don't even know what we're doing. We're not cattle. Let us do. We are martial artists. If you are going to benefit from us, let us do this safely. And that's the other thing that pisses me off. That's a safety issue. The way hands are wrapped to the point where you do not injure a fighter's hand when they punch or jam a finger or bend it, which can happen anyway, is a safety issue. You are rushing safety issues because you are underprepared. and you're yelling at us.
And that's an injury that never goes away. Once you break your hand, it's always.
I'm dealing with one right now.
I
I've broken my hand. I bent my thumb really bad the other day. It's woken me up in the middle of the night on multiple occasions because it just starts randomly throbbing. And I know it's not broken, but when you bend your thumb, and anybody who's ever had this injury, especially when you don't let it rest, like me, because I'm a dummy, it's very, very hard to heal, and it takes forever to heal. So you got to really be careful with your hands and your fingers, and you got to do it right, and it's a safety issue. So there's
for any
that.
amateur fighters out there, make sure you have someone that knows how to wrap your hands. I'm so sick of these guys coming to events and don't have anyone even wrap their hands.
Yeah, well, they don't have anyone. Usually, if you don't have anyone to wrap your hands, you don't have anyone coaching you either. Usually, and that's a whole nother issue. a talk for another day.
All right, let's get back right into the commission.
Okay. So
Trump's is leading right now.
Yep, 129, but still no shockers yet. We need the Carolinas and Ohio. That's what we're holding out for.
I don't see Caveman's name's not even up there. You guys didn't do a very good job voting for me.
You should have done more campaigning.
I started today, man.
Yeah, a little behind the eight ball. So the state has now said they are not going to regulate amateur MMA, which is probably one of the dumbest things I could possibly hear. So basically what the state is saying, we will be involved in professional MMA only. UFC, whatever, Bellator, Madison Square Garden. But amateur MMA, we'll leave it to these peasant committees that can just do whatever. Okay, so the way that works is it's basically the exact same scenario that we were just in. Except for if you want to do pros, now you have to pay this astronomical insurance fee and have the state officials come in and do it. There's really only one company out there that can afford these fees, which is the UFC or some guy who has a lot of money that they want to invest, which is not me. So basically, the state came in and said you can't do amateur anymore unless it's with some of these approved committees. It's going to cost you a lot of money to go through these approved committees because these approved committees have to get approved through us. And they basically outsourced it. They subcontracted it. They took the sanctioning and commissioning and the safety of these fighters that we've been talking about this whole time, and they subcontracted it out to these other commissions that they don't know shit about to watch over it because they don't have time to do the amateur stuff. And they said, we'll handle the big money stuff, the UFC bringing $50 million to Madison Square Garden, and we'll make all the big money and go from there. And you already had Rashad Evans today have a medical issue, which I don't know what it was. That
I actually read about when we got here. It was a problem with his MRI that wasn't a problem in any other state. And I knew it. I told you that at the gym before you even told me what you just said. I said we don't even know it. And this really pisses me off. So I know Rashad Evans is a hometown guy, man.
Yes.
Fighting for a home team. Oh
so he could be fighting tonight, right now, in any other state. If what we hear is right, except for New York, because this new commissioner, who I know very well, is such a absolute unpleasant person. And I understand you need to be...
Who's the commissioner?
Kim. It's Kim, you know that, right?
I know that.
I can't remember her last name. She used to head the SINAC, which is as crooked as it can get.
I thought she didn't take that job, to be honest with you.
Really?
I thought she turned it down or someone else now. I'm not 100%.
If that's the case, then I take that back. Someone told me, a very reliable source said, they didn't get the job because this person got the job.
Yeah, I heard it from the same source, and I heard from someone else involved with suing her that she's not the head of this state. Well, I don't know. It's all word of mouth.
Okay.
For me right now,
if she is not in charge of it, then I take that back and I stand corrected. I don't want to put false information out there.
Pennsylvania's not looking good.
No, that's pretty much. Oh God, neither is North Carolina. Oh my God. Okay. Well, this is just women. This is gender. Yeah.
Right.
But some of them are pretty.
Well, it's always gonna be like that in gender.
Yeah, that's true. The gender polls are usually gonna be like that. So yeah. So okay. So let me just. I really don't want to be ignorant. If she didn't take the job. Still doesn't change how I think of her, what she did when she was in charge of the SINAC, but fine. Then maybe she's not. But what I'm telling you is, I said this to you at the gym. You said, I hear Rashad's out. I said, yeah, I just read about it. And they said, in Rashad's initial statement, it said, apparently this commission won't let it happen. I'm healthy. I'm ready to fight this and that. And now it comes out, And now it comes out that he has always had this issue. I mean, medical things are so touchy and feely. I mean, blood pressure varies from person to person. I have a benign cyst, an acroleal cyst that showed up on my MRI. I've talked to 3 different doctors about it. They say millions of people have it. It's just a cyst. It's a fatty deposit. It's nothing that's ever going to be bad. But it shows up on my MRI. Is it an abnormal MRI? Maybe. I don't know. I had sinus brachycardia, which is a slow heartbeat.
I had the same thing.
My heart would beat at like 51 beats a minute on the EKG, and they were like, "You failed your EKG." I'm like, "Why?" Because I'm in like I'm running 10 miles a day. I'm in shape. I'm fighting the best guys in the world. I'm like, no, my heart is fine. It's probably not that now because I'm out of shape. But
yeah, like that's the worst test ever. Like you're in good shape, so you're gonna be punished for it.
Right, and it's like that was that was like 6 years ago.
And they're so expensive for us too.
Totally.
I don't know how much it was for you, but my insurance doesn't really cover it.
No,
it's like
you had to make up an injury and say, "Oh,
right.
I'm having chest pains." Then
the
they'll give
first
you
one was covered, and then the second one that the state required was like, expensive.
Yeah.
All because you're in good shape.
All because you're in good shape, right? But people are different, and there has to be doctors and medical people that can understand. Like this guy has a slow heartbeat because he's in phenomenal shape. It's 58 beats a minute instead of 60, even though it's a failed EKG. We understand this, but that's not how they run it. So anyway, to your point, Rashad, and again, this is just preliminary information, but Rashad fails his medical test for something that is maybe unusual that he said is okay everywhere else. Everywhere else, they say this is fine. But now this new New York State Athletic Commission said this isn't fine. It's the same exact thing that happened to Macy. When Joe Macy had the brain bleed, he was cleared to fight and fought after. A lot of people don't know that. He went down to Louisiana and fought. But New York State said it's probably like an acroleal. It's probably like a cyst. It's probably a benign thing that came up that they're going to require further testing for. That sidelined him from this thing, and it's total BS.
And all his money comes from the huge fans here too. So
yeah,
loses out. His whole
huge. His first fight at 185. He's probably been dieting and training like a son of a bitch. He's probably just.
He found out on a plane here too.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
Oh my god!
Because you already made your weight cut.
For what? And listen, it better be a serious health issue, and it's not because the other states who are experiencing this, and according to his statement, would have let him fight.
Yeah.
So it's just New York State not knowing what the fuck's going on, costing this guy millions of dollars, screwing the fans over.
And it is millions of dollars for him.
Millions for him. The hometown guy. He was like the one New York guy on it. They didn't have Sterling on it. They didn't have Weidman on it. They didn't have Jones on it. God, what a... it's just, again, it's...
Weidman's on the card.
Oh, yeah,
He's fighting Romero.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Yep. So, again, a complete example of the state not knowing what they're doing. They've botched it. They've outsourced the safety of amateur MMA fighters, subcontracted out to these bozo commissions. They have no interest in what is fair or what is safe for the fighters, and it just shows what happened with Rashad Evans. It's a joke, man.
It is a joke. And then his opponents left without a fight. That's even the worst.
Right. And it's Tim Kennedy, who's had a rocky history, but he's a top 10 guy in the world, arguably. And, it was a huge fight, man.
Yeah. All right. So they're not going to regulate it at all? So these amateur... Is he going to need different corner pads? What about a Pro-Am card in New York?
So, I don't know about the Pro-Am card. That's a good question.
FCP was talking about doing the Pro-Am card in February.
I know pros, I know AMs. I don't know this Pro-Am thing. I think it's a little too soon to tell, although maybe FCP has a fast track. What I can tell you is I just talked to someone that it is one of the approved people to put on a show. So, one of these approved sanctioning committees. I just talked to them. I'm in talks with them right now, where they said they would come in and sanction my shows. So I can now put on some shows again, but it would be with them sanctioning it. Now, I'm already a little skeptical because, like I said, I hold it to a pretty high standard, and I have to pay these guys a lot of money. So I'm going to have to pay these guys a lot of money to come in and sanction my show. And they better do a damn good job. They better keep these guys safe. They better know what the hell's going on. It better not be like the first experience that I told you about, the USMTA. And so I may get back into promoting and may get back into doing shows as long as these guys are safe and as long as it's worth the money and everything else.
FCP wasn't too bad. They had a couple weird rules, but it wasn't too bad.
Okay, good.
The one we were just down there for. I was just kind of wondering how that was going to work since they were just there and now they're doing a Pro-Am card. Maybe I was thinking about getting on. I don't know yet. That's a little close for me.
No, it's enticing for me. I understand that. it's it's close. It's Rochester. It's things like that. It's actually early February. That's 3 months out.
Yeah.
But you don't know. I don't know if they even know if they're gonna do it. Maybe they do, but I guess we'll see.
Definitely. So let's break down the card a little bit. Now that we're telling the world that UFC is going to be here, let's break it down a little bit.
All right.
We'll just skip over the preliminary card unless you want to talk about Miller and Thiago.
Alves?
Yeah.
70 for Miller?
Yeah.
It's not his brother? No, his brother's
Jim
retired. It's Jim?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Alves is hit or miss. He's super exciting to watch when he pulls the trigger. And Miller is an awesome grappler. He's super fun to watch in his scrambling exchanges. If you're a ground guy, he's
amazing. I love him.
He's very fun to watch in the scrambles and the heats, and so that's good. And Alves is obviously is he a hitter. He's a giant. Is Alves at 55 or is it at 70?
I'm pretty sure it doesn't say on here.
Because Miller's always been a 55er, and Alves is a giant 170. I've met him a bunch of times.
I don't think he can make 55.
Yeah, I would be surprised if he did. Like I said, I've met him before. He's a big dude. But who knows? But either way, so obviously I would definitely say there's a striking advantage to Alves there.
155.
So, okay. Has he been fighting at 55, or is it his first one?
It's got to be his first one.
Man.
Yeah, it's his first fight at 55.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm going to go with Miller.
I'd like to see see the weigh-in first.
Yeah, I'll go with Jim Miller on that. He's a seasoned vet. He's really good on the ground. He's tough to finish. He's only been finished a couple times by top-level guys. And Alves, I see him. He's been gun-shy sometimes. He has great stand-up, but he doesn't always pull the trigger. Good jiu-jitsu. I believe he's a black belt. But I would say Jim Miller all day in that one, especially if it's the first time a guy that size is cutting down to 55.
Yeah, I'm going to say Miller, too, at 55. At 70, I thought Alves was going to win, but at 55,
you don't know. That's interesting.
That's a shitty cut.
Yeah.
Holy cow. That
guy was walking around at over 200 pounds a couple years ago when I met him.
Yeah, I bet you he comes in overweight. He just fights overweight. I would.
Yeah, he was
10%.
Might as well. It depends on how much you're making, yeah.
God damn. So that takes us off the UFC Fight Pass card, and we're going to go into the preliminary card. I'll skip over some of it. What about Natal against Tim Boych?
Rafael and 85?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that it's Boych, right?
Yeah, Boych.
But I always kind of thought he's overrated. I like him because I like that he's had a couple of those Hail Mary comeback wins against Okami and different things like that. But he was tough against Henderson until Henderson did his thing. What's the other one I'm thinking of? Hamill beat him up pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
At 205. I'm just kind of recapping.
He couldn't deal with Hamill's wrestling. Hamill had him down every round.
Yeah, Boych, he's a hit or miss, though. I mean, he loses one, he wins one. He's kind of one of those guys that's definitely the gatekeeper. But I think that Rafael, right? Who's it again?
Rafael Natal.
Yeah, Natal. I think Natal can submit him. I think he's a really talented jiu-jitsu guy. And tall, long, good jiu-jitsu guy, decent striker, and if Boych isn't or Boych isn't agile enough, and he's not, he's kind of like a slow plotter. He's kind of old. He fights a little old.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he fights old.
He's as old as I am.
He's not athletic. He gets hit a lot, but he can hit. He can be tough. He can be strong. But yeah, I would say Natal on that one.
Yeah, I think Natal too. We got Khabib. I can't even say his last name.
Yeah. Nurmagomedov or Nurmagomedov.
That's better than I could do, but that's not against Michael Johnson, man. That's a good fight.
Yeah, that is a good fight.
We're into the parts where I got odds. Johnson's a 240 underdog,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Johnson's a stud. I like him. He's a good boxer, decent wrestler. Khabib is just a nasty 23-0 AKA prospect who nobody wants to fight. Right, I mean, I think this fight just got put together. Everybody's turned Khabib down, right?
Yeah, no one wants to.
Nobody wants to touch that guy. I don't blame him. He's a murderer. I think he's gonna smoke Johnson.
There's a big, huge prop bet going as a make out of the first round.
Yeah, I mean it could, dude. Johnson's tough. Johnson's tough, but Khabib is just like a guy. He's got like sambo, judo. He can throw. He can fight, or just a scramble. He can just power you. And Johnson's kind of got like that Diaz style build where he's just, he can drop the hard straight punches, but like I just see him kind of getting overpowered and kind of whipped around a little bit.
I think you're gonna see two guys that look at totally different levels when we watch this fight.
Yeah, but Johnson's tough though, dude. Who did he just knock out cold? What's his name? It was just the other day. He basically walked off when he hit him. Coach? Erik Coach?
Yeah, I think it's
Koch?
Yeah, Koch. I don't know. I'm trying to look it up on Google, but it's not loading.
No, I think it was Erik
Fantuzi's
Koch.
not
I
doing
think
a
he
good
clocked
job.
him. I think Koch came up from 45, and he was on a couple fight win streak, fighting at 55 now, and Johnson put him away. Johnson's had some super awesome fights, fun fights to watch. I think he beat Lazone pretty good when everyone said Lazone was going to beat him.
That's an eye opener fight right there.
Yeah, that was. But then he kind of struck because I think he lost like Diaz after that, right?
Yeah, Diaz is so tough.
Yeah, they have like a similar style with that long body punch, and I don't know.
Dude, Nick Diaz got a giant head. I don't mean to like jump off topic, but I seen him at the fight hole. I didn't really meet him because he showed up so late, but dude, his head is fucking gigantic.
Really?
Dude. Like, it looks like it doesn't even belong in his body. It's so huge. I can't believe anyone ever misses punching him in the head.
So was Tito Ortiz. Tito Ortiz, when I met him, man, it was
but his
literally like he had a
body's
pumpkin.
big, too.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
But like, Diaz's body's so small, his head's like gigantic. It's crazy.
That's funny. Yeah, I was. You didn't go to the seminar, did you?
No, I wanted to. I did a birthday party instead. WNY MMA doing birthday parties. Come check us out.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
That's cool. Awesome.
Cut the sword with the cake. Or cut the cake with the sword.
Okay, yeah.
For the Marcus kid, it was awesome.
That's cool.
Happy birthday, Daniel, if you're listening. This is still the preliminary card. And the main event for the preliminary card is Edgar and Stevens.
Yeah, I'm a big.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah,
like, that's like a pay-per-view.
That's a pay-per-view card. But those guys both have had a hard time getting the right following around them. Even Edgar. People know Edgar, but, they kind of don't really remember since those Gray Maynard fights. And, now he just couldn't beat Aldo and this and that. This is what I think. I think Edgar is the better, more well-rounded fighter, and he's quicker. But Jeremy Stevens has a hammer on him, and if he can land with the punches, that left hook, and do some of the counter wrestling and stuff some of the scrambles, I think it could be a breakout fight for Stevens.
They have a pretty similar takedown offense and defense, too. They both stop 65% of takedowns against them, and they're like 35% of takedowns each.
But you got to remember the level of opponent. Although Stevens has fought very good guys, Edgar's fought the best in the world at every weight class. I mean, you're talking Henderson twice, you're talking Maynard, you're talking
Henderson
Aldo
twice when he was a killer.
Right. You're talking and way bigger. And
yeah,
you're talking
he fights 70 now.
At 70, and you're talking like I said, Maynard when he was on a streak. You're talking like I said, Aldo twice, Chad Mendez. So my vote is
Trump's still leading.
I think Edgar by decision. But it could be a breakout moment for Jeremy Stevens, who I listened to. He's been on the Joe Rogan podcast a couple times, and I like him. I think Jeremy Stevens seems like a good dude, and he seems like a good type of guy I could resonate with because he's like a no bullshit type of dude. But yeah, I think Frankie Edgar.
So Frankie Edgar's minus 340, which means if you bet $340, you win $100.
You win $100.
And Jeremy Stevens is plus 280. So you're saying take Stevens for this one.
For $100, you'd make 280, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's worth $100 bet. I mean, to me, it's like 60-40 Edgar, maybe even a little bit less.
I think Edgar's better at every aspect of MMA, but I also think he's really small for the weight class. I think the time of being able to fight at natural weight's over in the UFC, and I think that's what he's running into right now.
Yeah,
I think he needs a cut.
He did stone Mendez out, though. Just put him out cold his last fight. Well, no, his last fight was Aldo. And he hung with Aldo. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. I'm not sure.
Physically with Aldo, he had a really hard time taking him down.
Well, it's the speed. No one can take Aldo down. No one's been able to do it. But Aldo just looked quicker and more accurate. The first 2 rounds, I thought Edgar had him. And then Edgar just found rhythm.
I think Edgar's at the point in his career where man, I don't know. He just seems like disinterested.
Well, if you're disinterested and you're beating up Frankie Edgar like that, then Jesus, I'd hate to see him interested. But he's accomplished everything. What has he done? He's lost to McGregor in a fluke. I don't want to say fluke, but it was kind of fluky. 13 seconds. That's if they
talking about Aldo.
Or Aldo lost to McGregor. Isn't that what you're talking? Oh
No, I'm talking about Edgar.
You're talking about Edgar. I thought you were talking about Aldo.
No. Edgar's looking a little disinterested lately. I mean, it's tough because he's been everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, is he going to be up for this fight?
Yeah, good point. Because
I mean, even against Aldo, he just looked.
He needs to go to 35.
Yeah.
He beat Faber, but then he needs to get in the mix down there or go back up to 55. I mean, you can't, or maybe hold out for a McGregor fight, stay relevant, hope McGregor comes back down because he's not going to fight Aldo again.
No.
And he's already lost to him twice for the title twice. So, yeah, I don't know. I think you're probably if I'm Frankie Edgar, I'm holding out for a McGregor fight. I'm trying to stay relevant. I'm going back up to 55, or I'm trying to cut down to 35 and get in the mix with Dillashaw and all those guys.
Yeah, I go 35 and look for Caveman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Poke him right in the eye, bite him old school. He won't
Run
know
away.
him.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Screw that guy. I'm not fighting him.
Fuck, I fight any of these guys, man. Make a name. I don't care.
Jesus.
Whatever. So you're going to pick Edgar on that?
Yeah, I'm picking Edgar.
All right, we're going to have to write these down. Are we going to put any money on any one of these fights? You don't have such a good record.
I think we're even, though, right? Then I
No.
Come on.
We're even because you paid me.
I knew there was some reason there. I knew we were even. I knew I didn't owe you money.
No,
anymore.
you don't owe me money, but you haven't. We haven't been. I got Edgar on this one too.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll find one we disagree on.
For this bet though, I don't think this is such a bad bet for there's a huge. I don't think that the spread's right for the.
It's just tough though. I mean,
for discrepancy in skill.
Would I bet $100 maybe? To win 280, but I don't know if I bet 500 or 1,000. That's what you got to do to really make money. So I don't know.
I wouldn't bet this one even. I wouldn't bet you $10 on this one that Stevens would beat Edgar. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I don't know. No, not even. No. But with the odds being
with the odds, yeah.
Yeah.
Then we got we're up into the main card now, the pay-per-view card, which is just a phenomenal card. I can't even believe they put this together. Evans would have been on the preliminary card too.
Yeah, I saw that, which was crazy. Yeah.
Oh my God, he wasn't even a main event on the preliminary card. But Edgar's a New York guy too,
Yeah, well, he's a Jersey guy, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
Kind of.
Trains with all them guys.
Yeah, Enzo's and stuff. I guess
that's New York. I mean, I guess it depends where you're fighting out of or where you live.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no doubt that he has huge ties, but he went to Rutgers and things like that. So I consider he's a Jersey guy, but. Who am I? He's more New York than me. I'm here in Buffalo. Right. He's in the city, so what can I say?
All right, so we're into the main card. We got Miesha Tate against Raquel Pennington.
Yeah, Raquel's tough, man. And Tate, I don't know, man. Sometimes she just doesn't come off right. I heard she was having some medical or, some issues her last fight. She just kind of wasn't really there. I'm a big Miesha Tate fan, so I'm going to go with Miesha Tate. But Raquel is tough, and, Miesha's got to be able to deal with big hitters that pressure her. That's why although Ronda couldn't hit as hard, Ronda ran right at her.
She had trouble with the pressure.
Yeah,
not even just.
She always has trouble with the pressure. Yeah, and the reason why she went as long as she did with Holm is because Holm doesn't pressure. Holm's like a counter.
Angles,
and Holm was beating her, but she was in it. And but the way you beat Miesha Tate is you bully her, and people who have bullied Miesha Tate have found success, and Raquel usually has that bully style from what I've seen.
Yeah, the odds are minus 175 for Tate and plus 135 for Pennington.
Yeah,
so
that's a
really
tough fight. No, I think Tate will win it because I'm a big Tate fan, and I believe in her. And sometimes when I watch her, I'm like, damn, dude, she has attributes that I think make her one of the best in the world, but I think she gets over muscled, and she even talks about they need to she can't make 115.
Right.
But they need to make a 125-pound division before a 145 for Cyborg, because she would fight at 125, no doubt. She is small for 135, and and that's one of the reasons she gets bullied around. So yeah, I would say I'm hoping Tate, but I don't know. That'll be an interesting one.
I think I'm gonna go Pennington on this one.
All right. Well, there you go.
All right. Well, we can decide which one we're gonna bet on by the end. Eric's not doing so good with the bets or the prop bets with me.
Come on.
Dub either, man. Dub's not doing so good either. I'm the guy. I break these fights down.
I like that bet though. I like that Tate bet.
Yeah, this is a tough one because I think Pennington's going to pressure. I think it's going to be a close fight. I don't think it's a mismatch. I think.
No, it's a good fight.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good fight, and I think Tate. I don't know. I think she's on her way down.
Do you?
I do. I don't think she's quite the same as she used to be.
Yeah, she beats Holm in the 5th round like that, and then her next fight she loses it. And you're saying she's on. She has to lose this fight in the same fashion as the last fight.
I don't think she looked good against Holm though. I thought she was losing that fight until.
She was. I thought she was. The first round was close.
She didn't look like Miesha Tate old to me in the last couple of fights.
Yeah, but you're talking Holly Holm though.
Yeah, but Holly Holm just got destroyed too.
She lost the decision. She got outpointed in the last 3 rounds.
Yeah, she didn't look too good either. I don't know, Eric. You're fine excuses. We'll have to come back to this one.
I'm a Miesha fan, so I'm hoping for her.
Barry is a huge crush on Miesha Tate. Just put out there, Judo Barry, black belt in judo. Got one of the guys over at Keith's place. He's an awesome guy. Yeah, actually not even over at Keith's place. I'm trying to get him over by us to fight.
Was that one guy who's like a purple belt?
No, I don't think he's even ranked in jiu-jitsu, but he's a pretty badass black belt.
Is he like a black guy?
No, he's a white guy. He's an African kid.
Didn't you introduce me to he's like a black kid and he was like...
Yeah, he's not black. He looks sort of Puerto Rican even.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he's Libyan. He's from Libya.
He's like my size, right? No,
yeah,
not my size,
yeah, like 180. Yeah, 180.
Yeah, he was cool, yeah. Yeah, well, hopefully if he's a black belt, man, I'd love to have training.
Yeah, he's a killer. I'd love to see you guys just do stand-up takedowns
with
the gi.
Bring them on.
With the gi. With the gi. Next up is, I think, the hardest fight to call on this whole card, Chris Weidman versus Yoel Romero.
The problem with that fight is the last time we saw Weidman, he gassed out and looked bad against Rockhold.
Weidman's the big favorite, minus 165. Romero's a plus 145, so he's the underdog.
Yeah. Weidman, former champion of the world, won the first round against Rockhold, started the fade, looked like he gassed out, plain and simple. Has had fights scheduled since, I think it was like neck surgery, some other different, or back surgery or something like that. He hasn't been healthy, and the one thing I didn't like about that Chris Weidman, Luke Rockhold fight is they both gassed out. They both looked out of shape. I don't know why. Maybe it was just a crazy first round, couldn't get their wits about him.
Weidman is that guy that trains no matter what's hurt. He just keeps going. He'll never pull out of a fight.
But he had to pull out of his last 2 fights.
That's how hurt he's got to be.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Yoel will Yoel fades too.
Yeah, this is a first fight. He tested positive for steroids last fight, so
he's a monster.
To see if he's off the juice for this fight.
And he's a hitter. It's a tough fight for Weidman.
That left.
Stylistically, that's a tough fight for Weidman. I think
it's also a tough fight for Romero because he fades so hard in the middle of the second round. Doesn't really have a lot of submission
Isn't
skills.
he like a Cuban Olympic alternate wrestler?
Yes.
Yeah, man, that's going to be tough.
Pretty sure he's a silver medalist. Not
maybe
even
that. Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
I don't know, man. That's going to be.
Weidman can wrestle, but that's a different level of wrestling and just physicality too.
Yeah. Weidman hasn't really fought anybody like that.
This is why it's so hard for me to call this fight.
That bully style, Weidman hasn't really done much or fought much like that.
He's always been the bigger, better wrestler.
Weidman is huge. Weidman's big too. He's big. He's tall. He's got big lats. He's like a big wingspan type guy. He's a different type of big. Yoel's like a compact little spark plug big. My gut is telling me Yoel right now.
I remember watching it. Yoel was one of Forrest's favorite fighters till he tested positive for steroids. Now I don't really like him anymore.
Yeah, good.
But I remember that fight. Yoel, the guy threw a jab at Yoel. Yoel went down, touched his legs, came up before the jab was even close to his face. He's so fast at that level.
Just that compact level change explosiveness. Yeah.
He also did poop himself, though.
He did?
Yeah, he shot himself in that same fight he tested positive for. The one where he came out and he said, God hates the gays?
No, that wasn't his last fight.
That wasn't his last fight. That was a fight he crapped himself in.
What was that, Jacare? No, Jacare was his last fight, right?
Yeah.
He beat Jacare.
He did beat Jacare.
Which is a big deal. Super competitive, controversial fight. Was that the one that he beat him on, or is that the one where he beat
I'll look that one up.
Machida, right? Because didn't he beat Machida?
Yeah, but that
was too long ago.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
See, it's tough when they get suspended. When they get suspended, I start to lose track of what's what because they're gone for a year and then they get back in a fight 6 months after. Next thing you know, it's been like a year and a half, and you kind of lose track of where they're at.
Yeah, check this out right now. His last fight was... that's not right. That's got to be his wrestling. Yeah, he beat Souza last fight. He beat Machida the fight before that. Then Kennedy, Tavares, some guys I never heard of.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Yoel.
Yeah, that one's tough because he's actually the underdog too.
Yeah.
And Weidman's so good at New York hard.
But he's been banged up. He didn't look at his fight before that. I'm going Yoel.
Yoel on that one? Man, that was the one I thought I was going to get you on because I thought you were going to go Weidman for sure.
And you wanted Yoel?
Yeah, I did want Yoel, so I guess we can't bet on that one either. I would say
I want Weidman because he's an American, so I like the Americans. If we're pick 'em fights, and 2, he's didn't test positive for steroids, most importantly, and then 3, obviously he's like a New York guy, so he's got the trifecta. He's an American from New York, and he's a clean athlete. So obviously I want Weidman, but if you're asking me, my gut opinion is I think Yoel is a savage, and I think it could be a tough night for Weidman.
If anyone's listening, I would say, and you're going to listen to us about betting advice, do not bet on this fight because this one could go either way. The odds makers have no idea either. If we don't know, they don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Next up is Donald Cerrone versus Kelvin
Gastelum.
Gastelum. That's how you say his name?
Yeah, Gastelum.
I actually haven't even seen too many of Gastelum's fights. To tell you the truth.
Man, you're missing out.
Yeah.
He's fought them all. He's fought a murderer's row since The Ultimate Fighter. He beat Uriah Hall in The Ultimate Fighter.
I saw the
season that I was
Fighter,
supposed to be on, by the way. And then, but they didn't pick me. So yeah, he won The Ultimate Fighter. Drops down to 70. He's had a lot of problems making weight. A lot of hard times making weight. Hasn't made weight 3 times. He's on and off with Dolce. Has a lot of weight issues.
He actually said he didn't like Dolce last, I thought.
I think that's what came out most recently. But at first he said he couldn't afford him, and as soon as he wasn't with Dolce, he didn't make the weight. And then it was like, I want to be with him, but I can't afford it. And Dana White made him fight at like 85 and all this other stuff. So his only loss, if you look it up, I'm pretty sure his only loss is just that close decision that he just had to Woodley. And Woodley's the champion of the world. And it was a close, boring fight.
He beat Johnny Hendricks last. I actually saw that fight.
Who beat Hendricks?
Calvin Gastelum beat Hendricks. On the last fight where Hendricks looked shitty. I do. I was thinking of someone else.
Stephen Thompson knocked out Hendricks, and then that was the fight before Hendricks.
Johnny Hendricks, UFC 200, Tate versus Nuez. Win. Calvin Gastelum. Loss. Neil Magny. Win. He beat Marquardt. Lost to Woodley. Beat Ellenberger.
Oh, he did lose to Magny.
Beat Story.
That's right.
Beat Hall. He beat your boy Rick Story.
Yeah.
Who hasn't retweeted your podcast yet. I keep hitting him up every day on Twitter until he does it.
Gotta keep bugging him until he caves. I think.
This is the one where Hendricks was just like.
I thought Wonder Boy fought him last and knocked him out.
Wonder Boy did kill him.
But this was. This
is the one where Hendricks just was like flopping around. Remember that fight?
Maybe I'm just drawing a
Wonder
blank.
Boy just beat the shit out of him.
Right, and finished him.
Yeah, Gastelum.
Decisioned him?
Yeah, it made it look bad.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yes.
And
yes.
like Hendricks looked like he was totally gassed in the second round.
Yeah. They both have problems. That's the thing with this weight cutting stuff. You know, I'm not that I do or don't agree with the weight cuts, but, you know, you're not seeing the best product all the time. And Hendricks is a great example. If that fight's at 185, I don't think Hendricks gasses out. Same thing with Gastelum. But they have these issues with this weight cut. But anyway, I think Gastelum is young. I think he's super talented. I'm all in on Gastelum. I bet ever since Magny fight bothers me because I thought he won that fight. But really, in my opinion, the only one he's really lost to was Woodley. And now Woodley's the champ. And it was a close fight. And it was a 3-round fight. If they fought again, it'd be 5 for the title. So I'm a Gastelum fan, but I'm a bigger Cowboy Cerrone fan. I'm all in on Cowboy Cerrone now, even more so than Gastelum. If I had to tell you my favorite fighters, wait, let me tell you. Did I ever tell you a story about Woodley?
No.
Me and Woodley? All right, let me tell you a story. So, Luigi Fioravanti was fighting for Raging Wolf, Thiago Alves. Luigi Fioravanti, Thiago Alves, Shane Prim, and somebody else were there. And then, of course, Tyrone Woodley. Tyrone Woodley had 0 fights. Didn't know anything about him. Well, I wanted a picture with Luigi Fioravanti because he was like the main event fight for the troops against Diego Sanchez. He was a Marine. I was always been a Luigi Fioravanti fan. I was like, hey, man, can I get a picture with you? You know, me and my wife get a picture with you. He's like, yeah, sure, dude. He was the main event. I was like on his undercard. And I got a picture with Thiago Alves. He just fought GSP for the world title, all this stuff. Well, Tyrone Woodley is like staring at me. And I didn't know who he was, but I'm like, this guy looks like he's probably a fighter or a wrestler specifically. And so I asked like everybody on his team to get a picture with him, and then I just look at him, and he looks at me, and I just turn my back and walk away because I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who he was. I was like, I didn't want to ask this unknown because he was 0-0. He never fought. He was just a national champ wrestler. And now he's the champion of the world. And none of those guys were ever the champion of the world. Now he's got a big title belt around his waist. He's the number one guy in the world, and he does it scary with that punching power. It was like how Hendricks first came onto the scene.
Yeah, dude.
It was like all those wrestlers, they find that niche where they finally figure out how to put their hips into their punches. Hendricks was doing it. He was doing it. Or is doing it now.
And they throw it so
hard.
Torque it over because they're not scared of getting taken down.
Right. Yep.
Bite down and smash.
And they have, they don't always have good chins. Hendricks has a decent chin, and Woodley does too. Koscheck hit him a couple times, and he stayed tough. But the thing is with those guys is they burn out. Hendricks gasses out. He's always gassed out. Woodley has gassed out in the later rounds. So, but to this fight with Cerrone, I'm a big Cerrone fan. I've been listening to him a lot lately on different podcasts and different shows. I like what he's done. I like that he's outspoken, and he even is alluded to that he might be interested in being in a fighters union and doing different things like that. He's his own guy, and to me, that's the biggest thing. Someone that's just unapologetically you, and that's what he is, dude. He's just his own guy, and he does it his way. And now that he's 4-0 at 170, he beats Gastelum, top guy, man. He might be fighting for the 170-pound title. So I like Gastelum a lot. He's like my second favorite fighter right now at 170. But my first favorite fighter is Cerrone. So I'm going with Donald Cerrone on that.
Yeah, Cerrone's a favorite. He's minus 155. I love Cerrone too. He's a guy that just wants to fight. He went on this card so bad.
Yeah.
So like he fights. He likes to fight. He likes to fight a lot. I think there's something about these guys that just keep getting in there and they're fighting. They have something that other people don't have, and that's just from being in the cage so much at the time. They're just ready to go. They just feel it just a little bit better, I think.
Yeah.
As opposed to guys that fight twice a year.
Well, another thing with that, and it's Cerrone on his latest interviews I've heard with him. He's not sparring. He's not sparring a lot. He's taking time off. He's taking care of his body. He's taking the right supplements, healthy supplements. He's recovering. He's training very hard, but he's not in there sparring, getting his head beat in. He said he had like a scare with like concussions because he has a pro hockey player friend who got diagnosed with like this but tragic, I guess you'd say, disorder from too many concussions. And Cerrone said he got real dizzy one day, and he was like starting to freak himself out. He's like, because Jesus Christ, he was a pro Thai fighter before this. How many times has he been hit in the head? I mean, how many times have we been hit in the head? We don't know what's going to happen to us. But he said one day he had like basically a bad day, and he was like, oh my God. So he stopped.
You're going to be president, I'm going to be mayor. That's what's going to happen.
I like it. But basically, he said it doesn't spar that much anymore. He already knows how to fight. It's about hitting the pads, his movement, jiu-jitsu, cardio, strength conditioning, things like that.
What belt is he? Do you know?
He's a black belt.
Is he black?
Yeah, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Like sick,
nasty,
and very underrated.
Yes,
I can't believe how underrated he is on the ground.
Yeah, yep, very underrated. I agree. He's nasty. He's got good jiu-jitsu, and I think that could honestly be one of the difference makers. And so yeah, I'm a fan. And so anyway, what I was gonna say is, so he's not sparring as much. So today I took over for a fight team for Dub. So I usually teach on Mondays and Wednesdays, but I taught the fight team class tonight. It was great. Super happy to be there. The team really put out a good effort today. It was like one of those classes that you're just like happy to be a part of. And I look on the thing before that, and it was like, who wants to spar before class? And I'm like, so and they did. They sparred before my class, and coincidentally, the ones who sparred before the class either didn't go live when I told them to because they were hurt from the sparring before class, or they were the most tired ones that didn't really turn it up at the end like the rest of the guys and girls did. So that really pissed me off. I'm like, here you got a coach who's coming in on his day off to do like this extra class, not extra, but take over this class and run the class for the day, and it was like firing on all cylinders, and these guys are wanting to spar and get their heads punched in beforehand.
I was busy at the kids class, man. I wanted to make your jiu-jitsu class bad.
Oh, I would have been. It was more like a wrestling positional one with some ground and pound stuff, but But it was good, man. They and I'm hating on them a little bit because they sparred before, but I'm not a fan of the sparring stuff. I think it should be supervised, and I think it should be once a week because you're getting these guys boxing every day, MMA every day, jiu-jitsu every day. Their heads are getting pounded in every day, and that's how we did it.
I'm going to say, like, I've totally changed on this myself. I do want to make a return to the cage, and I'd like to spar maybe like 3 or 4 rounds a week, just MMA, and that's it.
Yeah.
As opposed, I used to do 5 rounds every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Like 7 days a week. That's like 35 rounds a week.
I know.
5-minute rounds.
It's crazy. I did this. I would do 10 5-minute rounds in a row sometimes just to see. I could push myself against like Jesse and hitters, like good heavyweights. Oh, my God. I was an idiot.
It doesn't even make sense. Why would you only got 15 minutes.
I know.
You do so many rounds, then I really think if you spar more rounds than you do in a fight, you're just gonna save too much energy.
It screws your timing up. How much do you when do you start sprinting? How do you gauge it? It's bad. You know what it is, dude? It's a bunch of young guys hopped up on testosterone trying to see whose dick is bigger and who can do it. And that's all it is. Yeah. But that's what it is. I can do 10 rounds in a row, man. I did the hardest workout ever. That was stupid. That was the stupidest workout ever. But it's hard to, you're young, you're full of this piss and vinegar, and nobody's really directing you. The problem now is that I am directing these guys. They know my opinion. If you sat any of them in these chairs and they say, what do your coaches think? They would say, no, they want me to spar supervised. No, they don't want me to spar every day. They want me to put out maximum effort in their class. They don't want to be tired for their class, and they still do it anyway.
I got to say, like, the one time I trained with just you, when we got ready to go down to PA or Ohio, where we went, the time we went down with Chapman, who's also having concussion issues, by the way.
Oh, God, really?
Yeah, he just pulled out of his last fight. So, anyways, this is the first time the week before the fight I didn't spar. I used to spar like right up until the day of the weigh-ins pretty much. And I had so much more energy by the time I got there, and I was like a caged animal, man. It's like, it's so different when you want to do it and you can't do it. It just adds something to you, I think.
Well, plus it's hard. It's unpredictable. Like I sparred the other day with the guys, and they didn't hit me in the head one time. I could spar today in the first 5 seconds and get hit in the head, and that changes everything. So the sparring is not controlled. You don't know what's going to happen, and that's the whole point of it. And there is a dynamic to that that's important. But when you're talking about really teeing off on people, which these guys do because they are young and they're hungry and everything else, it can be dangerous. Hopefully Chapman's okay. Hopefully it's nothing too serious.
I think he might quit. He doesn't seem to like it's affecting his life, but it might be the end of him for fighting.
Yeah. I mean, you can get a concussion. My wife's had concussions. People have had concussions. I don't believe in hiding under the concussion blanket thinking that your life's over because you've had one. At the same time,
he's had quite a few now.
If you've had, I've probably had at least 10 or 15, And
they say every time you get hit, it's really
well, I know, and that's the other thing. Like, I was working out with the cops the other day, and I hit my head. Like, I hit the back of my head hard on one of them. Like, I saw stars. That was like a fluke thing. Like, my son has headbutted me before, and I've seen stars. Like, are these concussions? Like, can I not live my life? I mean, granted, fighting in the cage isn't helping, but I don't know. Hopefully I live a long, healthy life, and I don't look back and eat these words, but I think there's a little bit of common sense that has to go into this. I think there's a lot of concussion paranoia out there, too.
I honestly think it's totally individual. I think some people are just predisposed to having concussion problems, and some people aren't. And like, if you are, there's nothing you can do. It's just who you are.
It's a good point. I do agree with that. I do think it is individual, like everything else.
I mean, because I've probably had more head trauma than almost all the people I know that have concussion problems, and I'm as alright as I ever was.
Yeah. Well, I know guys that have had like 0 concussions, but then had a massive concussion in like IEDs and things like that, and rollover accidents, and they're like really fucked up. Like, more so than I ever am. Even if I do have problems down the road, I still made it this far to 30 being okay. These guys are younger than me, and they're not okay. I mean, they have severe TBI, and from one account. So I don't know. I don't know. And they say, I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows. I think there's a lot of light on it because of different. I mean,
It's the movie.
Well, yeah, and
concussion.
You see these football players dying tragically and things like that. Well, then there's a lot that don't. There's a lot that live to be in their 80s, and they're pretty coherent the whole time. You get And it's not for everybody, but I don't know. I guess just all I'll say is I agree with you, Jeff. I think it is individual.
All right, we're gonna go into the battle of the O Must Go, and man, I'm not even gonna try and say their last names, but we got Joanna
Jędrzejczyk?
Sure, against Carolina Man, I can't even.
What is it again? I know it. Just say it. Just try to pronounce it. I'd remember.
Kowalkiewicz. Kowalkiewicz.
I think it was like Kowalczyk or something.
Yeah, dude. They're both killers.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk is my favorite female fighter.
She's a huge favorite, minus 410. Carolina is plus 330.
Don't touch a bet against Joanna. She's a nasty, accurate, pinpoint accurate striker that hits like a guy. And Miesha Tate is like one of those two are my two favorite female fighters for different reasons.
Chris is rubbing up on me.
Joanna is far and above the best striker in female MMA. I even think better than Holly Holm. There's just such a way that she combines it.
I think she's way better than Holly Holm.
But you're talking about a kickboxing and boxing champion, and Joanna just does it so fast and just so different and violent. And a lot of Holm stuff is counter stuff. And using her size, and Joanna's just using speed and just tenacity. And I like Miesha Tate because I like her story, but Joanna is just a fucking dangerous human being. And I'm riding her I'm riding her hype
Careful,
train.
you do coach the women.
Yeah, I'm riding that hype train all the way to the top. I think she is. I don't see how you're going to beat her. Claudia Goodell was the one who was going to beat her, because she had that top-heavy wrestling, jiu-jitsu, black belt style, and Joanna was able to stay safe and then get back to her feet and stuff the takedowns, and she beat her pretty good. Close fight, but ended up winning those at least 3 rounds, if not 4. So yeah,
I thought she won 4. I don't think it was.
Yeah, so I'm a fan of Joanna. I don't think that she's going to be able to be beat anytime soon.
For the Americans, like just her accent alone and just her demeanor is very
she's
scary,
like
very
a
Cold War,
very
crazy.
American psycho, crazy demeanor. You're right.
Yeah, like very like Fedor when he was the top of the world.
And she's got like these bags under her eyes all the time.
Yep.
Like her eyes are kind of like dark blue, and she's got like these it looks like she's got 2 black eyes all the time.
Yep.
She just kind of looks at you like she looks off. And
I thought she was a pretty shitty coach though on the show.
I didn't see. I just saw bits and pieces of the show.
Yeah, she wasn't pretty good. I mean, this is a good fight. Carolina, she beat Heather Clark. She beat Rose, who's also Rose Namajunas. Why are these girls' names so goddamn hard
Rose
to say?
Namajunas or whatever.
Yeah, dude, that girl is a killer. She's gonna be somebody, I think. Rose
is a killer.
Yeah,
and Joanna beat her, right?
Yeah, Joanna.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Carolina beat her too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
How?
Split decision. That was the Lawler Woodley card too.
Yes, that was the last one.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So she's like right.
I saw that one. Yes. Yeah. It was close. It was a close fight. I thought, Rose had some good moments. Yeah, I thought Rose and Joanna were going to go at it again. So, this will be a good fight, but I'm on her bandwagon, so.
Yeah, I think Rose could actually go down a weight class, to be honest with you.
That's the problem. There's only 2.
I know there's not one in
15
UFC,
and 35. Like, there needs to be a 25.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure some of those 15-pounders are struggling to make it, and I'm sure some of those 35ers are, like Miesha Tate, are too big. And then maybe you do have the 45 for, like, the Cyborg and things like that, but I don't know. I don't know how many Cyborgs are really out there to make. She's already shown she can make 40. I don't know if you can build a whole division of 145-pound females.
Man, it's so tough because there's so many fights already, and then UFC's trying to cut corners now.
Yeah.
It's so. I don't think they're gonna make another division unless it's just for Cyber. They might just do super fights. I think.
Yeah, but 2 women's division is kind of BS nowadays. It
is.
Ronda could probably make 25.
Ronda could probably make 25.
She's made 35 on like days' notice.
She shouldn't be fighting at 45 against Cyborg, dude. Cyborg's so much bigger.
Well, yeah, Holly Holm and Cyborg, I don't mind. I kind of like that matchup. He won South Carolina. That's good. I kind of like that matchup, Cyborg and Holm, because Holm is big.
Well, I'm glad he won Texas. They were saying he might not win Texas.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
He said something. I forgot what. And
they didn't like it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
Probably said Dr. Pepper sucks.
I've been to the Dr. Pepper Museum.
Really?
Yeah. It's in Waco or Crawford.
Wow.
Waco.
That's awesome.
It's in Waco, Texas.
My wife, I got married in Texas, actually.
Did you? Oh, yeah, she was from there. You guys
she
were...
was from Plano. I got married in Plano.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot she was from there.
I'm going to have her on the podcast, and she's going to talk about how hard it is to be a wife.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
I know,
yeah.
because there's a huge
That's a
story.
great angle to play. I mean, that's people don't understand that.
And I'm going to bring in Keith's wife and Rick Rogers.
Cool.
For the man's perspective. Can you imagine dealing with mans? Holy crap.
Oh, my God. No, I can't imagine dealing with mans.
Sorry, man.
She'd drive me nuts.
With the raccoon.
No, I'm just saying because she does so much, and the raccoon thing is funny, but that's probably both of them. But no, the man's is just she's involved in so many different things, and I don't know.
Man, you're gonna have to come on a podcast. It's like 4 in a row that I talked about you on.
Yeah,
because we talked about her on Dr. Kroll's too.
I'll tell you what, she's one of the most unique people I've ever met. She's an awesome person. And she does do a lot of things. She does, races and crazy races I can't even describe.
100 miles. She ran 100 miles.
Yeah, she ran 100 miles, yeah.
She's trying to get me to do it. I told her I would do it with her.
Jesus, I wouldn't even run a half marathon, dude. My body would break.
I ran a marathon with her. I ran the Buffalo Marathon with her. But man's.
Did you?
We ate Swedish fish, yeah. And then Janice came and my wife came and they helped me finish out. That was tough. Because man's had some issues and she had to stop for a little bit, and then I got real cramped up because I'm old. Yeah. Couldn't shake the old out after that.
I couldn't either. I try to run 3 miles a couple times a week, and after I do it 2 or 3 days in a row, or 2 out of 4 days, my knees are all sore and swollen. And
back to the bet. Yeah. Would you bet Carolina on this plus 330?
I'm on Joanna, man. I'm team
410. 410 to make 100.
No, I wouldn't. Well, see, to me, those bets aren't fun. If I have to put up $410 and win $100, I'd rather just not, because I know that the puncher's chance is out there. Unfortunately,
next time we should come in and we should do these shows together, like the fighter and the kid.
Yeah.
Except it would be like the fighter and the coach.
And
or
watch
something.
them. It'd be cool to
we could
watch them as they're going on.
And we should be betting these live. We'll have so much money to bet on them.
That'd be cool. I'd do that.
Yeah, we could maybe do it on Fantuzzi and make some kind of contest out of it.
That'd be cool.
Winner gets a free lesson with Erik Herbert.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd do that.
That'd be awesome.
That's cool.
All right, we're going to make that happen, Chris. Chris left the room. He had to defecate or something.
How are we doing on there?
All right, next fight, we're going to have Tyrone Woodley against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
That's a tough one for me. His coach, Tyrone's coach, I'm a big fan of Duke.
Erik just turned his back on Tyrone. Jeez.
No. Did you see the stuff with him fighting?
I was talking about when you didn't take the picture with him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought you meant what I was going to say now, because I am a little bit turning my back on him, although I like him. Duke Rufus, striking coach from Milwaukee. Think a lot about Duke Rufus. Obviously, he had Sergio. He's had
one of the best
Pettis, one of the best stand-up coaches, but one of the best competitors, too, when he was fighting K1, and he really understands it. And the thing that's funny about Duke is that I actually reached out to him to do an affiliation years and years and years ago, and it was going to be like, yeah, you got to fly to Milwaukee once a year, and I was just over my head. I couldn't commit to it, but I used to watch his videos online all the time.
I do think Duke Rufus is probably the best guy that's come over from a kickboxing background to MMA, and his techniques are just work perfect for MMA.
Boss,
the way he teaches.
It depends. Very specific stuff. The long count combination stuff, the movement drills of Dwayne and what he's been able to do with Dillashaw and Benavidez and for a time Faber and the different things, he's really found a niche and a style that works for those lighter
really
weights.
Good too, yeah.
Bang, I think, is the best. I do a lot of my stuff but from the seminar with him and from watching and studying what he does. But Duke, as a bigger fighter, his fighters don't move like Bang's fighters do. I guess you can't really completely say that because of Sergio and Anthony Pettis. They move good, they're jumping off cages and shit, but they fucking bang though. And I don't know. It's interesting to see. Woodley's striking's come a long way since he lost to Marquardt and stuff like that. Or even Koscheck, he knocked out Koscheck, but he got hit a lot. And now Woodley is just an athletic monster. The problem with Stephen Thompson is he doesn't get hit.
Yeah, he's a minus 200 favorite. Woodley's a 170 underdog.
Woodley's an underdog? Yes. I'd bet on him as an underdog.
I would bet this fight too.
But Stephen Thompson just looks so nasty, and he's so elusive. it's going to depend on if Woodley can take him down and hit him with the big shots, because Stephen Thompson puts his hands down. He does some of that jumpy kick karate style. I think one of the big differences is that Woodley brought in Sage Northcutt to spar with, and I watched it, and there was like a whole episode on it, and Woodley was like, I had to eat my words. This kid is pretty fucking good. Because you don't see that in-and-out jumpy karate technical style for the most part in MMA, and Woodley struggled with it. And I think that Stephen Thompson is a much better version of what Sage Northcutt does. So what I think is I think Stephen Thompson's going to be too much for him. I think he's going to hit him. I think he's going to hit him often. I think he's going to be too elusive for him. And I think Stephen Thompson could potentially be the next champion of the world. But if he's able to get the takedowns, Woodley is able to get the takedowns, I don't think it lasts that long.
Dude,
I think he'll be able to pound him out.
I couldn't believe how Woodley won a title with that one punch. Oh, my God.
But Lawler doesn't get out of the way of stuff like that.
Yeah,
Lawler's whole thing is to get hit like that and then do the same thing back.
He's got that granite chin.
Stephen Thompson does not get hit like that, Jeff. He just moves too much. You can't find him. He's too long. He's inching back. He's got to be able to find him to do that. Lawler, that was going to happen to one of the two of them.
I actually wrote that down about. I did a whole blog about Lawler, how I think he's punched out now. It's too many wars. I think he's done.
You think he's punched out because he got socked like that against Woodley?
No,
see, you're too quick to pull the plug on him.
He's been caught. He's been getting hurt more and more and more.
Dude, I don't know, man. He had 2 back-to-back with Hendricks. Then he had Condon.
Yeah, those fights were killers.
They were killer fights, but then he goes to Condon and does that. I mean, see, to me, getting knocked out once like that doesn't do it. It's got to be like Johnny Hendricks. I see being.
He's been around forever. The older guys.
But he said he didn't spar for like 5 years. You're just you're seeing like the tragic part of it and thinking, damn, he's done. But the thing is, that could happen to anybody.
No, I totally get it. It could happen to anyone. But like, man, I think Lawler's
he's got a lot of miles on him.
Dude, he's been in wars, since I started fighting. He's been around forever, man. And like, you just can't do it.
He's been getting knocked out before. Knocked out cold, Diaz, things like that, before I even got punched. So
as good as Henderson is, like Dan Henderson, like as old as he is, I think he is not even close to the same fighter we saw in Pride. And I think the same thing about Lawler.
I think what you see with, I don't know, I disagree, man. Like Henderson is the same fighter for round 1 and round 2.
I don't even think so. Like,
Henderson, do you think what he did is the Bisbing in those first and second round, 10-8 first round probably, then whipped him around in the second. The problem is that he can't.
He would have destroyed in the old Pride days. He would have.
In the old Pride days, he wouldn't have got tired.
No, he would have finished him in the first round. I think so. He's totally different. He never got tired. He just went forward.
Well, that's the thing, but
he never got. He could take anything. He would never get stopped. He gets rocked now. He falls down real easy. He gets up. He still powers through it.
Dude, these guys are fighting the best top 5 guys in the fucking universe.
And they've been doing it for 20 years.
Dude, I don't think a knockout means they're done. They got to have
It's not just a knockout for these couple guys. It's just the way they move, the way they take damage.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Lawler is takes a lot of damage. I mean, he's like takes more damage than anybody in like UFC history, and it's tough to watch sometimes. But it's also why he's as popular as he is, because he's fucking Spartan.
And it makes him money, and sells tickets.
But there's guys that you can't be doing what he was doing against Woodley against. Like, you cannot stand in front of Woodley, and I think people are understanding that now. And you cannot stand in front of Hendricks, although he kind of did. But
he did stand in front of Hendricks.
Did.
For like 10 rounds.
So maybe it did cut off. But like when because I've watched it a bunch of times, like how Woodley knocked him out, I'm not like anybody in the world would have been knocked out.
I think so too, but I think maybe before he's not knocked out by that. I really, really honestly do.
Dude, that was
It was vicious, I know.
Blistering, violent, torqued over wrestler, boxer punch that just...
Think he's in that 5 years ago? Is he in that same position to get hit there, or is he off on an angle?
I think that's what happened with Diaz. It's why Diaz knocked him out, because he's fucking standing in front all the time. And Diaz didn't even hit him that hard, but he's just always he's just always trying to exchange, and when you're doing that, you're always.
I think those guys are gonna go too, but they're still right now. The Diaz brothers, they take a lot of damage too.
Sometimes you're the hammer.
Yeah. Sometimes you're the nail. Yeah. All right, I guess we'll agree to disagree on that. So you got Wonder Boy then?
I think Wonder Boy, I do, but I wouldn't be surprised if Woodley was able to wrestle him and get him that way. But yes, my official pick is Wonder Boy.
Yeah, wow, right over the champion. Did you see the Roy McDonald fight too? What do you think about his cardio? Thompson.
Thompson and McDonald?
Yeah.
Didn't McDonald beat him? No.
No, he beat Rory.
Yes.
He beat Roy's decision.
Yeah,
but he looked exhausted, I thought, in the third.
I can't remember specifically right now. I just know. Is that the one that where Roy kept doing this?
Yeah.
Kind of kept coming in like that? Yeah. I thought Rory looked tired in the third, too.
Yeah, they both were exhausted.
Yeah, they both were exhausted. But it was a high-paced fight, and Rory pushes it. They're both known to have good cardio, so it's kind of surprising they both gassed out like that.
Yeah, that was his last fight, too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he destroyed Hendricks, and then he looked lackluster against Rory.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, Woodley's got all types of momentum. I get it. That's a great fight. That's a great fight. That could be this fight of the night.
I think so. I think
it's exciting. Great fights are like styles and things like that. This isn't even that. This is just exciting.
I know.
It gives me chills. Like something's gonna fucking happen.
But there's the fights that are exciting because of the way the styles match up, and then there's the fights where you just feel the electric in the air.
Yeah.
And like you just don't know what's gonna happen. What's gonna be big. It's like a Tyson fight, and this is just like that.
This is like that. Yeah.
This would be like a main event anywhere. I'm gonna have to disagree with you a little bit. I think with the odds, I would take Woodley. Yeah. And it's almost 2-1 on your money. That's a good bet if you're.
That's a good bet.
If you're a bet man, that's a good bet.
Yeah.
Main event: McGregor Alves.
I don't know. I really don't. This is kind of that one where like I'm not sold on McGregor.
McGregor's a slight favorite, -160. Alvarez is +140.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet on it. McGregor, I'm not sold on yet. I like how he beat. People are dogging on him, but he beat Max Holloway. Good fight.
Dude, Holloway's a beast.
Holloway's nasty now, and Holloway was even good then, but he beats Max Holloway. It's like good. Then he beats Dennis Seaver, who everyone was like, oh, who the fuck is that? He's not that good. But he was good. Seaver is good, and McGregor beat him and knocks him out. Then he fights Mendez on like 2 days' notice or whatever it was, a week's notice, and I had a lot of – that's when I started to like McGregor because I'm like, dude, you're going to take a fight with Chad Mendez on 2 days' notice or a week's notice, whatever it was. I was like, you're a fucking badass because that dude's like the number 2 guy in the world. Just came out with that war with Aldo where a lot of people thought he won it. So I thought
he won, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so I was like, man, you are a fucking tough, you're a crazy real dude if you're fighting that guy on a couple days' notice. He loses the first round, stays resilient, goes in, gets the finish in the second. And then all the hype blows up because now he's the interim champ. And I'm like, I really like him based off his wins. I'm a McGregor fan. And then he fucking ices Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. And I just think this guy's the best thing that's ever happened to MMA. And then he does this bullshit stuff with Diaz, and it really turns me off to him. Because, one, he picked Diaz as the opponent for the replacement because he thought he could beat him. And they do it at like 170, and I don't get that. Like, I get super fights, but this was none of that. They just randomly fought at 170. The 140... That's like the 185-pound champ going up to heavyweight, or the 155-pound champ going up to 185. He skipped 2 weight classes. He goes to 45, and then he goes to 70.
And it's crazy because Diaz has fought at 55 too.
Well, really, that's the thing. I mean, people that say they fought at 70 and he was 3 times his size, none of that's true. Diaz is a 155-pound fighter, and he's an average size 155-pound fighter. So I don't think that Diaz had some crazy size advantage. There was a size advantage, you can tell, but it wasn't like astronomical. He was
Conor has to reach too, you know what I mean? Because he's fighting these guys that awkward southpaw with a lot of reach.
This is what I think. I think when you talk about 155ers, 170-pounders, you can get dudes that are fucking huge. Once you hit 155, 145 and the 35s, the guys just aren't that big. It just seems to be like there's a dramatic decrease. Look at this.
Oh, Ohio. Holy cow.
That's big. He needs it. It's got to be Ohio, North Carolinas, and then we got to see what happens in Nevada.
Eric's pulling for Trump, the Republican in him.
Yeah. Yep.
Jeff Dunn's not even on the ballot, unfortunately.
But there was at least one write-in, I heard.
No, I heard there's at least 6.
Oh, man, that could
write-ins.
be. You should have been running independent.
I know. I'm actually not a registered anything. I'm independent. Yep.
Yeah, you go.
I don't believe in the 2-party system.
Well, there's definitely flaws in it. I just believe in leadership. So
I lean Republican on most stuff, but there's Democratic stuff I like too. I'm
Sure.
kinda in the middle.
Yeah, me too. I hear you. I'm not in the middle, but
You're definitely not in the middle. But
no, but there are instances.
you're not a company man either.
No, there are instances of Democratic viewpoints that I do agree with, and there's instances of Republicans that I don't agree with. But to your point, or to your question, so that's my kind of history on McGregor. I don't like this Diaz stuff, and I just think he's so much bigger than these guys, and he can cut the weight and perform at 145. A lot of guys can't cut the weight and perform. He can. McGregor at 45. 55, 70, Diaz, these bigger guys, Eddie Alvarez, big dude, good stud wrestler, hard hitter, decent chin, but he's been knocked out a couple times. I don't know, man. I think McGregor's best tool, top 3 tool that he has is his size at 145, and he doesn't have that against 55 against these Alvarez's, these Diaz's.
I actually, a lot of reports have been saying that Alvarez been way more McGregor the whole camp. That he's actually the bigger fighter coming in this fight.
Who, McGregor is?
No, Alvarez is bigger.
Oh,
than
right.
McGregor.
Oh, 100%.
Like a lot bigger.
100%. Yeah, that's my point. That's the
Right.
point. Like when you go from 55 to 45, dramatic size decreases.
I can attest to that firsthand. I fought, an awesome guy
Oh,
named
yeah.
Leone at 45.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like physically overmatched. I went up and I fought 55. And holy fuck, that dude was big at 55.
Yeah.
I know to stay away from 55.
You can just, the body types of 55 pounders can be just as big as me. You know, they can be 200-pound guys dieting and getting
He
in
felt
shape.
like Saul does, man. Like, it was fucking big.
Yeah. 55 is that monster weight class. So is 70. 85, you just start to get in a whole another category, just like 205 and shit. But I think I'm just not sold on McGregor at any other weight class but 40. 45, I think he'll beat Aldo again. I think he's one of the best guys in the world because of the size, the elusiveness, the striking, the accuracy, this and that.
What do you think about his jiu-jitsu and wrestling?
I like that he's got Dylan Dennis with him and all this other stuff. I've been following him on Instagram, this and that. He's obviously got some good counter wrestling. He's been able to stuff a lot of takedowns. You saw what he did against Mendez and different things like that.
His escape from that guillotine was really good, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. He's a tall order. Alvarez is a tall order, and they all are. And the thing is I don't even know if Alvarez is the best 55er out there.
He's the champ.
Because he beat RDA, but I'm just saying, like, Cerrone beat him, you know.
He beat Pettis. He beat Melendez.
Those are the 3.
He beat Aoki.
Nah, Aoki don't count. He beat those 3 guys. Those are his big notches. But there's other guys, like, I don't know how he would do against Diaz. And I don't know how he would do against Cerrone because Cerrone.
I would love to see him in Cerrone. I think he beats Diaz, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean Cerrone beat him pretty easily in the debut, if you remember that one. Cerrone beat up him in his first fight over from Bellator.
I don't remember that. I vaguely remember that fight.
He beat him pretty good, pretty easily. Leg kicked him, beat the shit out of him on the feet.
He's been a different animal the last, I don't know.
Yeah, he has turned it on.
Maybe last 3 years.
Those last 3 fights that you rattled off, or
because I remember him fighting Chandler and he destroyed him in Bellator, and then he came over, and I don't really remember that
because Chandler beat him in the first place, right?
Yeah, but he caught him in that rear naked choke.
I've been watching Chandler on the Black Zillions website.
Yeah,
and the Instagram. Chandler, oh my god, holy shit, he is hitting so hard on these pads. I was like, who the fuck is that guy? That guy looks like a fucking 185er. It was fucking Chandler, Michael Chandler. I was like, who are you? No shit. He's like got like longer hair now. He's grown up. And then I was like watching more of a striking video he's holding with not Ernesto who's the other guy, Hoff or whatever, the striker import Dutch coach or whatever that's at Black Zillions now. And I was like, holy shit, Michael Chandler is the real fucking deal on these pads. So he's another one. But I don't know.
Go home and watch that, man.
Yeah, it's on their Instagram. Just follow Black Zillions on there. It's a lot of them. Michael Johnson's on there. Des Green is on there. There's a bunch of guys that are out there training with him now. But if I have to pick between McGregor or Alvarez, God, McGregor's just so good for the sport. You know, because he's making all these guys make more money because of him. And anybody that's on this card that's getting pay-per-view buys because McGregor. The thing is you don't just want to fight McGregor. You want to fight on McGregor cards. Because McGregor is always going to be a pay-per-view guy. You're never going to put him on Fox Sports 1 or something. They put him on pay-per-view. They put you on pay-per-view on the undercard. You're going to make money because
only the champions make pay-per-view dollars.
no,
right? Or is
lots
it
of guys get
contractual now?
contractual. So not only the champions. If I was on the prelims, no, but I get good exposure. But everybody wants to be on a McGregor show because everyone's going to get the exposure. A lot of the guys have pay-per-view stuff built in, and yeah, it's a big deal to be like Anderson Silva still gets pay-per-view stuff, former champ, but there's guys who get it. Bisping always got it in the UK before he was the champ. So I like what McGregor has done for the sport. Yes, he's flashy this and that, but he has definitely risen fighter pay, fighter notoriety, fighter lifestyle to a higher level. So I like McGregor in that aspect. I don't think he did it on purpose. I just think it was a byproduct of his success, but it still happened. So since I can't pick between Alvarez and him, although I've met Eddie Alvarez a couple times and I've met his brother, I fought on some of the same cards as his brother, I'm going to go with McGregor.
Wow, McGregor, huh?
Yeah. Complete throw dart at the board, though. I'm not confident on either side, but...
Man, I think this is I don't even know how to call this fight, to be honest with you. I think Alvarez is going to take this. I think we're going to chase McGregor back to 45. But I could be totally wrong. Because it only takes one left hand to turn it around.
One straight left.
Holy shit.
I know.
Yeah, I'm going to go Alvarez on this one, I think. I don't want to bet this one, though. I'm not willing to bet this one.
It's funny because we're always a lot alike. Like, when it comes down to the wire, we might pick differently. But, I mean, I could go either way.
Most of the time, we're stuck taking prop bets. Like,
yeah.
How long is the takedown going to take to happen or shit like that?
It's very rare that you and me look at it and we're like, no way. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's always like we can always, for the most part, come to terms.
Yeah, we could go, what one were we talking about doing then? Tate Pennington?
Tate Pennington, yeah. I'll go Tate.
All right, I'll take Pennington.
Our
normal?
$10?
Yeah, our normal $10